Kang Hunmu is thrust into hell. He can't survive 40 seconds, or comprehend what's happening before he begins to choke on the crystal dust that covering everything here is toxic, slowly poisoning and paralyzing his body. Hunmu can't move, clinging to life by a thread, but he still perishes. Instantly, he reawakens in the same spot, confused by what transpired. Seeing the accursed crystals around him again, he bolts as far as possible, but in 5 minutes, he suffocates and dies again. Revived at the start, he tries to flee once more, but a goblin swiftly ends him with a single strike. Through the next 13 attempts, Hunmu tries everything, but the outcome is unchanged. Finally, on his 14th attempt, he simply sits, relaxes, and starts to breathe deeply. He keeps dying repeatedly, but with each try, his survival time extends. On his 28th try, he finally gets a system notification. The poison in his blood has hit a critical level, and he has acquired the rare skill, Poisoned Blood. Now, Hunmu is immune to all poison damage. This hell allows him to gain new skills and level up his stats based on his actions. With poison immunity, he finally inspects the moss crystals. He sees that they are much larger and purer than those from his menial job. Each one is likely worth millions. Mere days ago, he was just a common trash collector. He would rummage through dungeon filth seeking moss crystals, and for this hazardous job, he earned pennies that were never enough for anything. But he had no other option. Perhaps the only kind person he knew was his lovely colleague, Yoan. But she was just a dim ray of hope in his bleak existence. It all started almost 30 years ago when the world was changed by the sudden emergence of dungeons, birthing an age where only the awakened and gifted truly mattered. As a zero-star awakener, Hunmu was fated to a powerless life with no hope of awakening. But then one day, an attorney named Robert Lee appeared, giving Hunmu a necklace left by his father. At home, he switched on the TV, idly handling the necklace. Hunmu was fixated on the man on screen, Lee Geit. Wealthy, popular, and naturally handsome. His unique powers made him different from everyone else. Hunmu couldn't resist comparing. Geit had it all, while he just had a worthless stone necklace. He thought if life ever gave him an opportunity, he would seize it without a second thought and make it count. Frustrated, he gripped the stone tightly as it began to glow, light bursting through his fingers. In an instant, the stone cast him into this hellscape. Back in the present, Hunmu gathers crystals, placing them into his inventory. But as soon as he does, a new threat emerges. A system alert warns that level 3 mosquitoes have spawned. He immediately bolts, attempting to escape the swarm. While running, he feels his stats rising thanks to his title, Hell's Strongest. Hunmu feels a sharp sting as a mosquito the size of his palm lands on his hand. He screams in agony as more swarm into his mouth. Abruptly, an explosion erupts, and he dies. Surviving for 6 hours and 18 minutes, he awakens to the chime of a true manhwa level up. He'd completed a quest, poisoning over 100 monsters, and his poisonous blood skill grows stronger. He slowly figures it out. The mosquitoes drank his blood and perished from the potent poison within him. Afterwards, he falls sick. The system reports his health will continuously drain as a consequence. Enraged, he erupts, grabbing a chair and smashing it apart. Just then, a glowing notification appears. He has acquired a new normal skill, dismantling. But the sickness spreads and his health plummets to below 10%. At that very moment, his title, Last Survivor in Hell, activates, regenerating his health. One by one, his afflictions begin to heal and the system confirms his full recovery. He decides to test out his new skill. Grabbing another chair by the legs, he activates the dismantling skill. In just an instant, the chair breaks down into its component parts. An idea strikes him. If destruction granted him a skill, then perhaps creation would as well. He grabs a long wooden pole, hammering a nail into it, attempting to fashion a weapon. The notification he was hoping for. A new notification flashes, crafting skill unlocked. This brutal manhwa level up system grants him a tool, and with it, he resolves to build a shelter. Crouched on the cold floor, a crystal moss floats in his palms. Hunmu knows a shelter is his only chance for survival here. While he is absorbed in his new inventory, a tattered newspaper crackles underfoot. He snatches it. Trying to decipher the text, the system chimes. He has acquired another common skill, language. As the words form, a name leaps out. Ji. Could it be the same Jeong Guild? This makes him think that this desolate ruin is his own world, shattered. He turns to the mosquito carcasses on the floor and activates the dismantle skill. After some time, his grim work yields results. New materials emerge, mosquito wings, stingers, and viscous mosquito blood. He gathers them, initiating the production skill, and forges a rare item, the Hell Dart. He inspects the dart, guessing it's a one-time use projectile. Driven by curiosity, he begins dismantling more mosquitoes, using the crafting skill again. An egg materializes in his hand. While he examines it, a new notification appears, revealing a mere 50% chance of the egg's survival. For now, Hunmu decides to secure it, slipping it into his pocket. He is then jolted by a sudden loud crash. Peering past the shelter's wall to investigate, he sees it. Across a window stands a green-skinned, eerie figure, holding a heavy blade. It wears a crude red cap, Its yellow eyes sweep the shelter, then lock onto Hunmu's petrified form, a goblin. It lunges forward, swinging its sword wildly. He drops just in time, the blade shattering the stone where his head was moments before. Flustered, he spies a nearby staircase. Panic seizes him as he bolts for the stairs, the goblin hot on his heels. Hunmu remembers his weapon. Instantly, he pulls a wooden pole from his inventory and swings it hard at the goblin. The pole smacks its side, staggering it. The creature snarls, struggling back to its feet. Just then, a notification reveals the monster's identity. Red Cap Goblin, level 20. The goblin lunges again, swinging its blade in a wide arc that Hunmu narrowly evades. He counters with the wooden pole, but the goblin is too fast. A single, precise slash snaps the pole in two. The goblin's eyes glint with malice as it mutters something unintelligible. The fact that the creature can speak stuns him. That moment of hesitation was his undoing. With terrifying speed, the goblin's blade tears across his chest. Staggering, Hunmu draws several hell darts from his inventory, clutching the gash running from his shoulder to his waist. He hurls them straight at the goblin. In a blur, the creature slices the darts from the air, but one dart finds its mark, striking its hand. Blisters instantly erupt on its flesh. Without hesitation, the creature severs its own poisoned hand. Hunmu connects the dots. His own blood must have coated the dart, which poisoned the goblin's limb. The goblin vanishes. Suddenly, air whistles behind him. He looks up to see the goblin airborne, its sword aimed right for his heart. Blood erupts from his body as the blade tears through him, and he collapses. As the goblin turns to leave, it mutters that it believed all humans were dead. As Hunmu registers its words, a system chime pierces the silence. A notification flashes before his eyes, alerting him that his health has fallen below 10%. The regeneration perk from his last survivor title activates. The wound on his chest seals shut completely. Another message appears, informing him of his quest completion. Surviving the first night. He receives a silver box as a reward. The silver box flashes, upgrading to a gold box as compensation for the extreme difficulty contrast. An announcement surfaces, permitting him to use the Heartstone to return until the next quest begins in 14 days. Hunmu grips the stone. It glows fiercely, pulling him back to his original world. When he next opens his eyes, the sound of rain fills his ears. Jolting upright, he's flooded with relief at his return. But his thoughts turn to the necklace. Rage at his father surges as he grabs it, but he freezes, memories of that hell flooding back. Just then, Yum spots Hunmu outside the treatment plant and rushes over, scolding him for being too close to the entrance. Fearing mana poisoning, she wraps him in a raincoat. She pulls him inside, directing him to the bathroom and handing him a mana decontaminant. Hunmu attempts to decline, but she scolds him, emphasizing the toxicity of crystal moss for commoners. After stepping out of the shower, Hunmu casually asks the date. Yum replies it's September 11th, and mentions he has not shown up for work in 2 days. Despite it only being 2 days, to Hunmu, it feels like 3 years spent in hell. His thoughts swirl as he recalls being home before being pulled to hell, only to return to the same place. Seeing as his old clothes are contaminated, she leaves to get him clean ones. Suddenly, a screen opens, displaying the items in his inventory. It shows some nailed poles he had made as a weapon, the crystal moss he managed to collect, and a golden box he got as a reward. His SSS level luck increases the quality of the contents of the box as he taps it. A number of tarot cards arise, some burn to ash until only one remains titled Battle Helper, granting him a legendary skill. Only 7 people in the world had any legendary skills. This manhwa level up makes him the 8th, though he has no clue what the skill does. Yum returns with fresh clothes for him. As he is getting dressed, she notices his good health even after contamination. She inquires whether he's an awakened, since only they are immune to mana poisoning, to which Hunmu admits that he recently acquired powers. Recognizing her expertise on the crystal, he shows her a kilogram of the rare crystal moss he collected to determine its worth. Her jaw drops open in disbelief upon inspecting the piece. Taken aback by the crystal's 5-star quality, she asks him where it came from. Yum is a collector in the mines for the sole purpose of gathering crystal moss for her research. Hunmu establishes that if she wants to study the crystal, she must help him find a way to sell it. She explains that the large size would make them tough to sell. Hearing this, he snaps the piece in half. Outraged by his careless behavior toward such a valuable item, she lashes out at him. Hunmu admits he has even bigger pieces of crystal moss to calm her down. He lays out the 2 conditions he wants her to agree on. His identity as the one who collected it and the origin of this crystal must be kept secret. These conditions set her off again, as he can't comprehend the quality of the high-purity crystal, which can only be obtained from the very first dungeon that opened. He tells her the next steps depend on how well the items sell. As he grabs his contaminated clothes, she asks him to stay the night. The next morning, she leaves to meet a buyer. A week later, worried about the safety of the crystal moss, Hunmu joins her to meet the buyer, who also promises to purchase the remaining moss. The buyer, Parkiso, introduces himself, offering a firm handshake. Hunmu feels the strength in his grip, realizing if the man were to attack, defending would be difficult. The system activates Hunmu's Hell's Strongest title as his fight instinct kicks in. Parkiso inspects the crystal and agrees to the trade. Before leaving, he bows to Hunmu, leaving him to wonder if the sketchy man has figured out his secret. After the man leaves, Yum teases Hunmu for being paranoid, and then shows him a notification confirming the payment. It is then revealed the buyer collects crystal moss for Gay Li, the renowned hunter from the Taikyouong clan. As they examine a blood-stained crystal, they discuss how the hunter, who must have gathered such pure crystal from a 5-star dungeon, won't be able to remain in hiding for much longer. Liet wonders if the hunter might be from a foreign clan. He orders Parkiso to investigate the sources. Yu Min and her partner Hunmu. After days of constant training, his strength cap increases. While he could easily do over 1,000 pull-ups in the real world, even a few in hell quickly drain his energy. Exhausted on the ground, he wonders how long he has been here. A message appears, showing 18 hours before the next quest. Hunmu has now gotten a hold of how things work around here. Time passes in the real world, as he spends his days in hell. The only thing that frustrates him is not understanding why he wakes in a different location each time. A readout reveals that the legendary His Battle Helper skill predicts and records his movements, enhancing his accuracy. It feels like an illicit cheat, but he knows he won't survive this hell without it. He activates the skill, testing it on a punching bag. As he throws punches, his accuracy gradually improves, allowing him to focus on a single spot. Elated, he realizes the skill is reinforcing its learned data on his movements. At that moment, a new quest begins. A beginner's friend. With the objective to eliminate all 5 scarecrows. Bewildered, he wonders if this beginner's quest is an insult, considering he's already at level 7. Hunmu searches hell for the scarecrows, then he spots eerie, skeletal figures frozen in place like mannequins. A hovering notification shows the beginner scarecrow's level as unknown. An unsettling image of them coming to life and crawling like spiders flashes through his mind. Conjuring a hell dart, he hurls it at a scarecrow, but the mannequins remain completely still. He strikes one with full force, yet it won't budge. Suddenly, the eerie creatures animate, their eyes glowing red with lasers. A message flashes, disclosing their level as 7, matching Hunmu's own. As they advance, he's relieved to find their speed is slower than the goblins. On Earth, rank 7 means 5 or more years of experience. Here in Hell, it's just a beginner's rank. Channeling his legendary skill, he prepares to annihilate them all. Surrounded, sweat beads on his forehead as he quickly formulates a strategy to engage them all at once. Without warning, a scarecrow charges him. He retaliates with a firm punch, but another leaps on him, locking him in a chokehold. As the scarecrow's grip fails, Hunmu lands a harsh blow to its face. Cracks form and its skin begins to peel away in pieces. Just then, a system update signals the start of level 2. 2 scarecrows restrain his arms while another 2 pin his legs. The 5th one charges at him, puncturing his ribs. Hunmu howls in agony as the system notifies him of increased strength, hemorrhage resistance, and pain tolerance. Despite the boosts, his health bar drops below critical. Resurrected by the last survivor perk, he summons a weapon of brittle timber, now amplified with attack power. He strikes with his weapon, shattering a scarecrow's limb, but it quickly regenerates. The system updates again. The scarecrows are equipped with heavy steel weapons. In a flash, they execute Hunmu after his 5 days of survival. His attempts to fight are in vain, as he's defeated every time. Frustrated, he ties 4 scarecrows to a pillar with rope to face them one by one. Using his legendary battle helper, he zeroes in on each creature's core to break it. Unable to break the core, his combat level increases to 3. Soon after, he meets his end in brutal ways. His neck snapped, a kick to the face, a somersault through the air, tossed like a football. And finally his neck is twisted and broken by a punch. Regaining his motivation, he pounces at the enemy, throwing a punch that it dodges. He follows with a kick that cracks its face. The system updates and sparring level 4 begins. In the blink of an eye, 2 fingers jab forward at lightning speed, gouging his eyes. He crashes into the wall, clutching his eyes. The creature shrieks and bites into his leg like a rabid dog, and just like that, he dies again. It takes Hunmu 9 rounds to learn 3 game-changing facts. First, the battle stops at level 4, meaning no new fight variations. Second, since the movement patterns are fixed, they pause to recalibrate if there's an unexpected change. Lastly, if they take significant damage, their movement halts. After several successful brawls, he finally completes the quest. Crying out in happiness, he looks back at the fallen scarecrows in satisfaction. Despite being at the same level as his opponents, his hands tremble. Fighting them felt like facing a master, not a beginner. He soon receives a reward, boosted by SSS rank luck, a true manhwa level, up the cradle of heaven. A golden cloth materializes in his hands as a glowing screen displays its properties, boosting growth and restoring damage. Hoping it grants him power, he wraps it around his head, but nothing happens. The item proves useless, as he resurrects with full health every time. For a while, he considers selling it. A legendary item would surely fetch a fortune. Then, his eyes fall upon the egg, a prize from the dismantled mosquito's corpse. Covering it with the cloth, he waits in tense silence. Moments later, the egg shatters. He braces himself, wondering what horror might crawl out. Suddenly, a blinding surge of light erupts from the broken shell. It opens its red eyes, stretching languidly. He points, remarking on its tiny form. The famished fairy snatches his finger, sinking its teeth deep. He rips his finger back, sending it tumbling. The starving creature sits up. Hunmu offers candy, but it refuses. When he asks what it desires, it points directly at him. Its wings flutter as it lands on his arm, drinking his blood. He tries to push it away, but the fairy insists it's only stopping the bleeding, licking the wound. The creature mockingly calls him its slave. He squeezes its tiny body, forcing it to behave and demanding to know what it is. Confused, it then recalls its purpose, to appear at world's end and devour all life. Hunu contemplates crushing it then and there. He dismisses the declaration as a joke, given its size, but as he looks closer, he's shocked to find it's immune to his toxic blood. Its lack of hostility blocks his battle helper skill. Unable to fight or even gauge its power, Hunmu decides to tame it as a pet. He names her Rainian, a choice the feral fairy accepts, as it resembles the word for doom in her tongue. Knowing Rainian will follow him, Hunmu sets one condition. She must never consume a human, especially him. He agrees to let her drink his blood, however. Rainian glances at the scattered bodies, asking if they are human. Hunmu grins, but then spots a torn scarecrow and panics, unsure if he's responsible. An alert appears, adding the valiant energy trait to his battle helper skill. Hunmu activates the skill, testing the new trait on a scarecrow and shattering it to pieces. Out of nowhere, the enemies reanimate, classifying Hunmu as a superhuman and deactivating the lock. Baffled by this sudden manhwa level up, he clenches his fists, ready for trouble. Instead, the scarecrow before him points to a wall piled with broken furniture. As they approach, Renian alerts him to a rich scent emanating from that direction. There, they find a skeleton slumped in an office chair, a hand resting on a letter. Renian immediately starts gnawing a bone from its hand, and Hunmu scolds her. He reads the letter. Dated 3 years after the world reached nightmare level. Children now die from the toxic air, and even the awakened perish, pushing humanity to extinction. The horrifying realization dawns on him. This world is his own future. The letter ends, mentioning the writer and others considered taking their own lives. Some did. As Hunmu wonders about the author, Renian finds a hearthstone beneath the bones. He compares it to his own, noting the differences. The moment Hunmu touches the stone, it erupts with intense light, burning an imprint onto his hand. An alert warns him. He is being watched by the stars. Renian flies off, sensing danger, and Hunmu is hurled into another universe. He floats in an infinite void, calling for Renian. Just then, a presence makes itself known. The leading star, Barul, recognizes the star shards he absorbed, but Hunmu is a disappointment, and Barul abandons him, infuriated by the wasted shards. Hunmu gives the fading star the finger. He demands the system explain the stars, a concept he was unaware of. The system unlocks the information. Each star is a supreme being, ruling a cosmic territory. They lend their immense power to chosen kin through star shards, empowering them to expand their influence. The system detects his curiosity, revealing he too carries a star shard, and they want him to join them. It all clicks for Hunmu. The stone was not a hearthstone, but a fragment. A glowing symbol materializes before Hunmu as multicolored stars spiral around. Each offers a unique power, a dazzling charm, an army of steel, or aid in hunting the great snake that destroyed the previous world. A realm to rule from a screen, and the title of Lord of Death. A notification prompts Hunmu to choose a star to follow. Confused by this flood of information, he asks for clarification. The system responds with details about each star. The Shattering Star, Gaul, is a mastermind who rules from the shadows, using secret societies, daggers, and poison to manipulate. The Weeping Star, Verde, father of all sorrow, commands an army of the dead, thriving on despair and the ruins of shattered hopes. The Starving Star, Yogel, is a greedy serpent whose people are always hungry, desiring to devour the world. The Whispering Star, Monstral, an instigator, shining brightly in light and dazzling in dark, deceives any powerful being to kneel before her. The Conquering Star, Ardon, is a loser desiring to rule a world in ashes by burning it in hatred and resentment while advancing with fire, slaughtering enemies with iron. Hunmu finds their personalities repulsive, and the system notes that the stars are only interested in beings like their own selves. Offended, he lashes out, unable to see what fault of his led to such a degrading comparison. He resolves it within himself that he is better than them. He questions if choosing a star would change anything. A stream of visuals rushes past his eyes like a fast-paced film reel, demonstrating the power of these stars. A prompt appears once again, urging him to make his choice. Recalling the struggles he endured in hell, he asks if siding with a star has a cost. The system replies he only needs to follow and serve the star as they nurture their kin to act on their will. Unsure about this whole ordeal, Hunmu asks if he has to choose right now. The answer comes after a moment's silence, calling it a rare opportunity. The more they test him through trials, the faster his manhwa level up will be. Hunmu questions whether there's an immediate reward or not. The stars respond at once, clearly insulted. Seeing that they approached him first, he questions their motives and demands more time to think. In response, the conquering star, Ardan, loses interest and turns away, while the others grant him the time he asks for. The galaxy fades, and Hunmu returns to hell. The whispering star, Monstral, circles around him, its sharp edge pricking his hand. He is notified that the star activated part of its power, granting him the legendary skill, Domination. He sees it as a bribe, and wonders why such powerful beings couldn't stop the difficulty from escalating in hell. Hunmu speculates that there must have been more talented people than him, and if even they couldn't prevent this, perhaps the stars are the creators of hell. He decides to proceed with caution and observe the stars more closely. After 3 days in hell, Hunmu returns to the real world, stronger, but never sure where he will land. More often than not, he arrives disheveled and ragged, forced to sneak through the shadows to avoid attention. One day, still in that worn state, Hunmu visits Yoan and declares he wants to buy a house. She sees his conviction, but reminds him it is impossible. He is sitting on illicit cash. A lavish estate in the hands of a zero-star commoner like him would raise suspicion. The next day, he weighs his options to tap into his wealth more freely by registering as an ability user and raising his rank. His mind drifts to the star that followed him here, wondering why settle for just one when he could take them all. His greed sets him to acquire as much power as possible by any means necessary. The world's fate and humanity's survival mean nothing to him. He just wants the world in his grip. Hunmu and Yoan eat quietly across the table, eyes on the TV as the news covers Liu's announcement. The Tong clan will attempt to clear Baekdu Dungeon for the first time since North Korea was abandoned, after they had a crisis where all the monsters escaped the 5-star Baekdu Dungeon. Such a crisis is known as a flood phenomenon, where if a dungeon is left alone, monsters will pour out of it. Baekdu Dungeon, a 5-star dungeon with equally strong monsters. Only mana-infused weapons can kill them. Most clans avoid it, but Liu's team is the first to try a raid. While changing channels, Hunmu stops at a news report. The biggest talent test of the year opens registration in 3 days, which is said to be the biggest one this year. The Taon clan will use it to recruit for next year's Baekdu Dungeon raid to restore peace and safety in Korea. The next day, in the packed line for test registration, someone behind Hunmu yells at him to move. He turns, glaring. Startled, the man asks if it is his first ever evaluation, sparking a memory of his first time as a boy at the orphanage. He scans the area. The lines are pure chaos, overrun with both new applicants and ranked hunters. Tyson's open recruitment drew them all. He asks the man if he is also registering. The man shakes his head. He is just there to update his rank, hoping to increase his value. Hunmu thinks, in this world, a person's worth is measured by their level, fueling a relentless obsession with ranking up. Lost in thought, Hunmu misses the line moving until the man behind him shoves him forward. Still, his mind dwells on what a higher rank might bring. When Hunmu's turn arrives, he is informed of 3 checks. The first is an identity verification, a mere formality. The second is a stats check, done after a blood test. The third is a skills check, evaluating his combat ability. Most people score a base skill rating of 100, but it means little. High stats do not always forge a good hunter. For the final test, Hunmu is told to insert his arm and grip the marble at the end as hard as he can. The instant his fingers close on it, a loud crack echoes, leaving everyone wide-eyed in stunned silence. Following the crack, the numbers on the machine go haywire. The staff is flabbergasted, and 2 possibilities surface. Either his rank is too high, or the machine is too old. Since it worked for Lee Gite earlier, the latter seems more plausible. Hunmu feels embarrassed for breaking it, but the staff calmly calls it a common malfunction and recalibrates the device. He tries again, restraining his strength, but the machine breaks once more. This time, they cite a system error and ask him to try again, but he asks them to let it be, and is handed a paper. His skill review is now pending. Afterward, the crowd splits into 3 lines: attackers, defenders, and those with buff or ambiguous abilities. With his results pending, Hunmu joins the 3rd group for more evaluation. The receptionist asks if he wants to take the hunter ability test, noting he passed the base test. She says, this year's test is unlike previous ones, as it is a partnership with the Taon clan. She warns that while becoming a hunter sounds thrilling, most earn little, and it is a dangerous path that could potentially lead to death. Only the top hunters make a substantial income. While others might need other paths, Hunmu is not here for money or fame. He feels a profound sense of duty to humanity. Unknowingly, dungeons could soon become too much for humans to handle. She gives him a registration kit, hinting the test will involve a dungeon. Hyunu wonders what kind it will be. Meanwhile, Liate arrives at the research bureau. Crowds part as he enters, flanked by men in suits. His team briefs him. The Red Butterfly Group has joined the test, a faction many clans want to recruit, but they have declined all offers, aiming to use their skills for the northern expedition. The moment the Tai's clan mentioned the north, they applied. GT says he would have accepted them without a test. As for the other participants, most are under level 20, no threat to Red Butterfly. Then, his staff mentions our guy. A unique case awakened with highly and unusually toxic blood. Jay finds it impressive, yet risky. A single drop of Hunmu's blood could endanger his teammates. They decide to observe him for now. Hunmu waits in the hall outside the test room with other participants. A man emerges, calls his name, and hands him a small square tile before walking away. Hunmu calls after him to ask about it, but the man does not even glance back. Soon, the test room opens. Everyone is led into the third gym of Yongsan Talent Bureau, now a dungeon simulation. Liet addresses them. The test dungeon is based on a 2-star Ukrainian dungeon model. Their task is simple: collect as many tiles as possible in 3 hours to pass the dungeon-themed test. The hunter candidates enter, and the test begins, leaving them to face the dungeon for the next 3 hours. Inside the dungeon-themed gym, monsters are not the only threat. Every participant begins with 1 tile. Monsters carry between 1 and 3. The person holding the most tiles by the end will be rewarded. A group of contestants forms a team, balancing their odds, defense, and healing skills, inviting Hyunu to their team, but he sees himself as a one-man army and refuses. He wants the entire reward, knowing only the person with the most tiles will win. The team, concerned about being short 1 member, while others have 5, tries to convince him. Hunmu shrugs them off, but one furious member grabs his jacket and demands his tile, thinking he was just another weak contestant. Our guy responds with a devastating punch, causing the man to collapse as his tile flies loose. Hunmu snatches it midair, then turns to the rest, daring them to try the same. Instead, the one who had initially invited him surrendered, dropping his tile and backing off, which amused Hyunmu. The guy explained that no rule stated you would be disqualified for losing a tile. Plus, the man our protagonist just flattened was their tank. Our champ thinks the man is smart, so he resolves to let them go if they hand over their tiles. Meanwhile, in an observation room above, Lee watches the dungeon's map on a glass panel. Beside him, his associate monitors the test. The Red Butterfly's leader is a standout, a true manhwa level up in progress. She has taken all the tiles from the people she went in with. The guy notes if her 2-star teammates regroup, they could handle a 3-star dungeon with ease. Surviving is key, but Taikyouong is also looking for people strong enough to fight this dungeon's monsters. One of these is the mushroom droid, newly developed by the D industry. It's an android built from the mushroom monster's hide from the Chernobyl dungeon. It is durable, with mana-repelling gloves, and cheap to repair thanks to its regenerative materials. But it has flaws. Its attack power is weak, especially against multiple people. While groups can beat it, solo hunters like Red Butterfly herself will struggle to learn its patterns. Moreover, its tile is embedded deep inside, making it hard to get. Geit suddenly notices something odd on the map. A red dot with Hunmu's initials shows he already holds 8 tiles. Back in the dungeon, Hunmu finally faces the android, but his expectations shatter the moment he sees it. He was expecting real monsters, but the creature in front moves like a mannequin, eerily similar to the beginner scarecrows he fought in Hell. Taking advantage of its slow speed and weak stats, Hunmu pummels it with his fists, keeping it pinned. He grabs its leg, spins it, and slams it into the ground. Standing amid the wreckage, he lets out a scream of boredom. Bored out of his mind, he uses his dismantling skill to extract the tile from its remains. It felt too easy. Just as he thinks that, a broadcast echoes through the dungeon. Only 34 minutes have passed. Just 30% of tiles have changed hands. Then, the rankings. 3rd place, Hungarian, a muscular woman with 7 tiles. 2nd, Red Butterfly, with 9 tiles. 1st, Hunmu, holding 16 tiles. After the announcement, Hunmu tosses a droid's head in his hands, thinking goblins would have been a better challenge than these scarecrow-like androids. He checks his loot, a common rated spore eroder's flesh. He figures the scarecrows in Hell were tough because of leather like this. Curious to craft something, he places the leather on his arm. It wraps around naturally. Using his crafting skill, he creates spore eroder's knee and arm guards, also common grade. Encouraged, he gets ready to craft more. Meanwhile, Red Butterfly, sitting in 2nd place, eyes the leaderboard, determined to surpass our hero. A swarm of opponents spots her and then charges. She takes position and activates her skill, radiating a blinding light. She dashes through the crowd, throwing punches, landing kicks, and flipping midair until she stands on shattered ground. Surrounded by the defeated, the spectacle draws a larger group aiming to take her down. Surrounded, she calmly strikes a karate pose, daring them to step forward. Her teammate Hungarian rushes in, shouting her nickname, Uni, trying to stop her. Red Butterfly insists she needs more tiles, but her teammate reminds her they already have enough for the Northern Expedition. 88 tiles, confirmed by Red Snake, the nerdy man who surrendered to Hunmu earlier. Still unsatisfied, Red Butterfly glances at Hungarian one last time and dashes off in a thunderous burst, leaving her team worried. In the observation room, Lee notes Hunmu's performance and asks for more information on him. His guy reports this is the man's first time evaluation. Yet his skill review remained a ghost file. Gay connected the dots. This was the man with poisonous blood from the earlier report. Hunmu's movements screamed of a seasoned raider, an illegal explorer who haunted dungeons without sanction. The suited man confirmed the anomaly. Hunmu possessed no criminal record, no revoked licenses. Lee suspected he was a foreigner, from a land with laxer laws. Intrigued, Jeet awaited the inevitable clash with Red Butterfly. Deep inside, starving and disoriented, Hunmu bit into the flesh of a spore eroder, a spawn from the mushroom droid, only to gag violently at the putrid taste. Suddenly, he sensed an approach. A woman with a long, crimson ponytail, encircled by a swarm of scarlet butterflies, materialized. Red Butterfly swept past, halting so sharply he nearly fell. She coldly asked if he was alone. He retorted that 150 allies awaited his signal. Seeing through the bluff, she smirked and dropped into a fighting stance. Hunmu's system screamed with alerts. Level 14 double his own level 7. She threw a punch, and he instinctively blocked. Her raw power was overwhelming. A crimson arc sliced the air toward his face. He dodged, but just barely. One clean hit would be his end. And if not for his battle helper skill, he would be unconscious. The skill flared, allowing Hunmu to evade her onslaught. She launched another kick. He ducked, still unable to counter. Fearing defeat, he unleashed his Valiant Energy buff, a gambit he'd been saving, one potentially lethal for humans. His hand began to glow with azure power as he raised it. As their fists collided, red and blue energies erupted like warring spells. Their eyes met, and with a sickening crack, her arm shattered. She stifled a scream as Hunmu demanded her metal tiles. She dropped them, asking if that power was a skill. Before he could answer, a massive woman charged in, roaring her teammate's name, and sent Hunmu flying with a single punch. Dazed on the ground, he spotted two figures, Red Snake, the man from before, and the muscular woman helping Red Butterfly. Red Snake introduced the powerhouse as Hungrian. Her face twisted into fury at the sight of the broken arm. Red Butterfly tried to calm her, insisting their team was too weak. Hunmu proudly declared he was responsible. Just then, a broadcast announced the 3-hour test was over. Rankings were imminent. Hunmu worried the distraction had cost him first place. Third place, Yoan Takeke, with 21 tiles. Second, Kang Hunmu, with 69 tiles. First place, Red Butterfly, with 88 tiles. Confusion struck both Hunmu and Red Butterfly, while Hungrian grinned triumphantly. The poor guy realized Hungrian must have swiped his tiles during that punch and passed them to her sister. Frustrated, he facepalmed. As Red Butterfly tried to explain it was a misunderstanding, Hungrian cut her off, demanding an apology for the broken arm. Though her words stoked his rage, he remained composed, thinking before acting. First, he understood her shock. Second, she should have heard the full story before casting blame, even though the fight was fair. Third, what truly infuriated him. After stealing first place, they dared paint him as the villain. Deciding to teach a lesson, he used his legendary skill, Domination, a gift from the Whispering Star. The air chilled as spectral horrors manifested behind him. Hungrian went pale, collapsing in terror, seeing her leader not as a woman, but a twisted monster. A small girl, Haru, rushed to heal Hungrian, followed by medics. Realizing he'd gone too far, Hunmu fled. Lee watched the footage, impressed by a level 7 hunter taking down a veteran. This was a true manhwa level up, one that could even surpass their own hunters. He resolved to meet this champion before Red Butterfly did. Outside, Hunmu regretted wasting so much mana on domination. Lee's man, Ta-Su, approached him. He handed Hunmu a card, congratulating him on passing. He assured him the Taong clan could unlock his full potential. Hunmu asked, did that potential include reaching the stars? In the car, Lee replayed the brutal battle. Ta-Su reported to Lee that Hunmu, as expected, refused the offer. He asked if Jite knew about the stars Hunmu mentioned, but Jite was just as baffled. On the conversely, the Red Butterflies accepted the offer, a move that served their northern expedition. After a tense exchange, the two groups went their separate ways. Geit remains fixated on monitoring Hunmu, whose true agenda is a complete mystery. Later, as Yoan drives him home, Hunmu reveals the card from Ta-Su. Her eyes, however, are drawn to the box on his lap, a prize from the Red Butterflies, an apology for Hungrian's violent outburst. Inside are rare heavy grip gloves, designed to amplify both defense and strength. Yoan notes the latest crystal moss batch went to Parkiso again. The man has been hoarding the supply. Hunmu's suspicion deepens. No one needs that much moss unless they're a pawn for a greater power. He contemplates cutting out the middleman to deal directly with Parkiso's master. Yoan then asks if the box only contained the gloves. Remembering the prize money, Hunmu inverts the box, and a 50 million won check flutters out. Parked outside, they discuss the lavish reward. Suddenly, the coppery scent of blood hits him. He stops Yoan cold, ordering her to stay in the car as he stealthily moves to the rear of the building. He finds two men lying unconscious before a shadowed figure, Parkiso. The man explains that his crystal moss has drawn international attention, even from high-ranking hunters. The fallen men are Yakuza, sent for his supply. Parkiso chillingly adds that if he hadn't intervened, Yoan would have been the target. He then proposes a partnership with the Tong clan, the same group Hunmu just rejected, suspecting they're behind this. Hiso admits to investigating him, finding a complete void, as if his past was erased. This is a true manhwa level up, a progression that defies logic. His combat techniques and rare moss don't match his cover story. When Hunmu refuses again, Hiso's face hardens. The time for talk is over. Our hero's Hell's Strongest title amplifies his abilities. Hiso strikes with his wand, but Hunmu evades, creating a momentary distraction. He snatches the new gloves from his pocket. Claiming self-defense, he slips them on and lands a solid punch, stunning Hiso, who recognizes them. He sees the first-place reward now on Hunmu's fists. Parkiso drops his facade, his coat falling away to reveal a murderous glare. The situation escalates. Hunmu, fueled by pride, dismisses the man's words. Hiso calmly removes the sheath from his cane, revealing a gleaming, razor-thin blade. Hunmu's battle helper skill flares to life as Hiso lunges. He dodges the lethal swing, but his opponent immediately presses the attack. The deadly dance continues until Hunmu vaults over him, landing silently behind. Hiso reacts instantly, the blade narrowly missing its mark. The sword whispers past his face. Hunmu seizes the opening, grabbing Hiso's collar and unleashing his domination skill. Believing it worked, he moves in, but his body freezes as the old man speaks. It's too late. A blade slices his wrist, forcing him to his knees. Hiso admits he wasn't trying to go for the throat, questioning who Hunmu truly serves. In response, our protagonist erupts into hysterical, unnerving laughter. He reminds Hiso of a fatal oversight, his poisoned blood. As Hiso's guard falters, Hunmu slams his bloodied palm directly into the man's mouth. Despite his experience, Hiso clearly lacks poison resistance. He retaliates with a vicious elbow and a kick, sending our hero reeling. Hunmu crashes hard into a wall. Hiso desperately sprays an antidote on his face, while Hunmu's regeneration skill begins knitting his wound shut. Hiso is stunned by the rapid healing, asking if it's a hidden skill. Hunmu's health had fallen below 10%, triggering his title. The last survivor title activated, granting him regeneration. Hiso realizes with frustration that brute force alone cannot break this man. He changes tactics, pressing again about the crystal moss's source. When Hunmu stays silent, he tries to lure him into joining the clan, but Hunmu flips the offer, telling Hiso to work for him instead, vowing to never serve another. Parkiso, unimpressed, dismisses his words. He turns to leave, but Hunmu, now impressed by the man's prowess, decides this fight isn't over. He moves to block his path, demanding to know why. Invested in a clan with no true strength, he points out it's smaller than the third-ranked Almighty Lotus clan, with members weaker than the Great Unknown. He scorns the clan and its leader as media stars, which stops Hiso cold. He retorts, calling Hunmu either ignorant or blinded by ambition, thinking he could surpass Lee. Hunmu mocks Hiso's loss. But before he can react, the man swiftly draws his blade and swings, grazing his cheek and cutting his hair. He then highlights the clan's power with Lee at its apex as the strongest. Hiso warned that if his intent was to kill, a level 10 rookie wouldn't be standing. With raw pride, Hunmu declares his intention to eclipse Lee. He then demands what makes Lee so special. The man reveals Lee hit level 20 in under 6 months, with the clan's full support, a pace of manhwa level up that Hunmu could only dream of in years, and that's just the minimum he can do. Stung by the insult, Hunmu vows to surpass Lee in 2 weeks, offering Parkiso a wager. If he succeeds, the old man must serve him, but the man dismisses it and walks off. Determined, Hunmu returns to Hell, using goblins as punching bags to grind levels. He shoves his fist into one's mouth, its teeth piercing his flesh, as his toxic blood is forced down its throat. His system announces he's hit level 15, followed by another alert. The conquering star Ardon has fixed his gaze upon him. Trying to raise a defiant finger, Hunmu finds he can't. His hand is shredded by goblin teeth. As he wraps his hand in bandages, thinking not to push his body too hard, Renan suddenly appears. Noticing the wound, she flies over and pokes it with her straw, drinking his blood. Hunmu allows it, since he can revive from blood loss, making him wonder if he could also be revived in the real world, just like in Hell. Looking at the goblin pile, Hunmu is impressed by his progress, though he still can't find the black-handed goblin from the very start. At that moment, he hears approaching footsteps. It's the same goblin he was just thinking about. He leaps to his feet, and Renan vanishes as she appeared, leaving Hunmu alone, with a goblin trembling with fury at the sight of its dead people. Our guy in action crafts a claw from hell darts, and his bandage while taunting the goblin. The goblin charges at Hunmu, lunging with its tongue. The goblin strikes, and Hunmu is unable to last a second before dying. After surviving 12 days, he awakens on the ground to a panel notifying him of a new quest: defeat the black-handed goblin. Getting to his feet, he plans a trap with thumbtacks coated with his toxic blood in a deep ditch to catch the goblin. He notices its approach too late, and dies again from a fatal blow after surviving exactly 1 minute. On his 6th attempt, Hunmu tries to escape, but the goblin gives relentless chase. Exhausted from running, he spins and tries to counterattack with a punch, hoping to catch it off guard. To his surprise, The goblin retaliates with a brutal strike from its blade. He briefly considers hiding after resurrection to level up safely, but his ego refuses the easy way out. He's determined to defeat the goblin, unwilling to back down without a real fight as the goblin kills him once more. Days pass, and the level 20 redcap goblin sees no sign of him, but can't relax knowing our guy can't truly die. It turns out the goblin has a name, Kersonen. Not only that, but it also has a family to protect. Suddenly, a frantic goblin rushes up to him, shouting that someone poisoned their drinking water, and now they are all dying. Kersonen rushes to the hideout, where goblins lie scattered and sick. The smaller goblin informs him the poison also killed the animals they were raising. Kersonen's expression darkens with rage, as he realizes the human is behind this cruelty. He regrets not locking the man up earlier, feeling this could have been avoided. Soon, another goblin arrives, carrying Kersonen's crying baby. Overcome with emotion, Kersonen begins to walk away. Determined to find the human responsible, his people try to stop him, insisting it's pointless to fight someone who can keep reviving. They urge him to let go of his vengeful quest and flee together to find a new home. Sanctuary. Abruptly, the goblin hears whispers from the stars, instructing his tribe to seek a new shelter. However, their collective gaze falls upon a scout, encircled by poisoned blood. The horde realizes the human left traces to lure them into a trap, to strike when they least expect it. Their leader commands them to hide while he hunts the human. He boasts he can kill Hunmu blindfolded, his every movement burned into his memory. Still, his tribe urges caution, reminding him that unlike the human, he cannot revive. With his people now gone, Kersonen stands alone, sensing the human's presence nearby. He vows to deliver an agonizing end. Hunmu, armed with his heavy grip gloves, readies himself for the inevitable. Our hero offers Kersonen a chance to die by his hand, confusing the goblin, who assumes it's a trick. Hunmu clarifies that if he wanted them poisoned, they'd be dead, not merely sick. He warns the goblin that while only a few of his tribe died this time, he can strike again, daring the creature to stop him. The enemy slashes his sword at our hero, who catches the blade as the goblin sneers he could capture and dismember Hunmu, but it's useless since the human can just die and revive. Hunmu proposes a deal, his life for his family's safety, stating he only wants revenge by killing Kersonen. Kersonen drops his sword, asking if his life is all the man wants. If so, he must promise to leave after killing him. Hunmu reaches for the sword to end the goblin, but that single second of distraction is all it takes. The monster sends him reeling with a brutal kick. He doesn't believe a word. Hunmu snarls that he despises him. Kersonen leaps upon him and tries to strike him with his blade, but Hunmu parries with his gloves. The goblin smashes his sword down again, vowing to deliver him a painful end. Hunmu's health plummets below 10%, but his regeneration skill activates, healing him instantly. The goblin's mistake was not finishing him immediately. The hero retaliates, slamming a fist into Kersonen's gut, forcing him to his knees. Seizing the goblin by the neck, he lands another blow, sending Kersonen flying into a wall. Our hero isn't even using his full power, giving his opponent a chance to recover. As Kersonen struggles up, another punch buries itself into his gut. The goblin was certain he dealt fatal damage, yet Hunmu appears untouched. Hunmu uses the goblin as a punching bag, who thinks the human is hiding a skill given his power. Sensing Kersonen's confusion, Hunmu reveals he never got stronger. He simply tricked him into thinking he was an easy one-hit kill. Since Kersonen believed he could kill him at will, he grew careless, failing to see Hunmu's regeneration perk. This was a true manhwa level up in tactics. Even so, the goblin refuses to give up easily. He readies himself to fight again, but Hunmu lands a heavy blow to his neck, sending him crashing face first to the ground. Kersonen, struggling, tries to speak, so Hunmu allows it. The wretched creature starts pleading for his life, begging Hunmu to spare him. He reveals that his leaderless people cannot survive here. They too will perish if he dies. Smirking at gaining their experience, Hunmu pulls out a hell dart and plunges it into him without hesitation. After the fight, Hunmu scans the city for goblin traces, but finds none. Moments later, he is rewarded for completing the quest by defeating the level 21 red cap goblin. He gets a silver reward box, which is upgraded to gold because of the difficulty gap. After gaining 3 levels, Hunmu's Hearthstone activates, surprising him. He wonders if revenge grants more experience. A notification appears, 21 days until the next quest. Another follows, stating the shattering star Gaul is watching him. He focuses back on the dead goblin, inspecting it to learn what made Kersonen so strong. Rinian suddenly appears, hoping to consume the goblin, so he tells her she can have the goblin after his analysis. Holding Kersonen's sword, Hunmu examines it, realizing the goblin's strength wasn't just from the weapon. The power stemmed from something else. His eyes lock onto Kersonen's black hand, still clutching the sword. The dark, strange, etched markings on the hand seize his attention. A notice reveals his hand is guided by Gaul, the star that had been observing him. As Hunmu touches the goblin's palm, its runes surge like smoke, piercing his own hand like needles. A pattern forms on his palm, and the system notifies him he's absorbed a fragment of the shattering star Gaul, unlocking a legendary skill family. The scene shifts to Yoan, who is asleep in her bed, stirring as she hears her name, blinking awake. She's shocked to see Hunmu, after 2 days. Frustrated, she turns to go, but Hunmu grabs her hand, stopping her. He considers revealing the truth behind his disappearance. But before he can, Yoan mentions Park's unexpected visit to her doorstep, inquiring about him, which fueled her suspicions. She feels left in the dark and angrily demands to know where Hunmu vanishes for days, insisting he take responsibility for dragging her into his mess. He shakes her gently to calm her, promising to explain. His mind races. He wonders why he kept her in the dark. She has been by his side, always helping and putting him first. Realizing her deep involvement, fear grips him. If anything happened to her, he knows he'd lose his mind. Left alone in this miserable world. Moved by emotion, Hunmu spills all his secrets. The Hearthstone, the cursed place known as Hell, and his frequent disappearances. Yoan listens with worry in her eyes, but Hunmu reassures her, promising that no matter how long he's gone in Hell, he will always return to her. Her heart softens when he calls her his lighthouse, his reason for coming back. Leaning on his chest, she says she dislikes being just a lighthouse. Instead, she wants to save him from his troubles. Hunmu says he needs a shower, but she rests her head on his leg, suggesting they go together. The next day, Hunmu wonders how to contact Park after the promised day passed. Luckily, an opportunity arises. Park Hisu appears and offers him a ride, apologizing for breaking their promise. He insists he has reached level 20. However, Hisu is skeptical. He was rank 7 just 2 weeks ago, and there's no way to verify his claim. Besides, the old man never verbally agreed to the deal, so it wasn't official. For his hard work, the old man offers a 15% increase on the crystal moss price, assuring him he won't be forced into the clan. But Hunmu isn't satisfied. He demands the price be doubled as compensation. The old man glares, disappointed, but Hunmu smirks, unfazed by the intimidation. He summons a piece of rare crystal moss into his hands, looks at Park, and asks if he understands what a monopoly is. Hunmu says only he can supply these exclusive crystals, giving him a trade monopoly. He threatens to walk if Park refuses his terms. The man insists he is already paying a premium, 5-star dungeon rates, plus a 15% bonus. Hunmu plays his final card, flicking an object at Park, who catches it. His hand reveals a legendary ring, Trust of Urhost, which temporarily doubles the wearer's senses. Hunmu taunts him, boasting Lee never gave such gifts, implying he would prove more useful than his boss. He lets Park keep the ring until he admits our hero is better. Park examines it, deducing the gloves given as a reward by Lee are nothing compared to this ring. Its shape suggests it is part of a pair. When asked about the other ring, Hunmu lies, claiming he has never seen it. Pleased, the old man agrees to double the price and handle the tax issue discreetly. This is what Hunmu admires. The old man goes the extra mile to satisfy his clients. Still, Hunmu withholds the truth. The second ring is in his pocket. Obedience of Ukalhart, letting him track and weaken the other ring's holder by 50%. Asked if he wants anything else, Hunmu motions to the car and asks its name. Later, he calls Yoan outside her institute. Annoyed by the disturbance, she's stunned to see him with a sleek black car. He says he borrowed it from Park and plans to start driving lessons. When Yoan learns Hunmu drove there himself, she scolds him like a child, as he has no license. What was meant to be a sweet date ends with her angrily taking the wheel and driving him instead. Afterward, Hunmu practices with Park Hisu, who suggests joining the clan could solve all his problems, offering luxury, convenience, and all a hunter could ever wish for. The old man slams Hunmu's arm harshly, saying Teslan has the world's best benefits, and it's his loss to ignore the offer. Frustrated, he refuses to join again and throws a punch, but the man dodges and strikes his gut, possibly cracking a few ribs. The damage is not enough to trigger his regeneration, which Hiso is keenly interested to witness. Smugly, Hunmu thinks his raw endurance may have impressed him, but Park-soo simply says he needs more time to assess him, then launches another round of training. Park continues to train Hyunmu and mentions the Great Unknown Clan, which Hyunmu refuses to join due to its shady reputation and mysterious leader. The man then asks about the third-ranked National Association of Ability Users, NAA. Hunmu says he's considering that option, as they're known for their kindness, even to outsiders, though it can be a bit much for some. Thinking him distracted, he strikes, but Hiso swiftly dodges, tucking and breaking Hunmu's arm, dropping his health to critical. His regenerative perk activates, and the old man sees exactly what he wanted as the hand snaps itself back into place. Hiso is impressed by Hunmu's growth in just 2 weeks, a true manhwa level up, and is excited by his potential. After training, he asks why he was called here. Hunmu says he just came to return the borrowed car. He then asks if Hiso has ever heard of stars, which the man mistakes for the class system. It's then revealed our hero is a level 20, first class awakened. He clarifies by listing star names he knows. Parkisu admits he's only heard of them from top-tier hunters like Liate. He adds that China's top hunter, Xiao Oji, once mentioned a group called the Five-Star Association that created a dungeon. Also, the Reverse Cross Crusade, a group for half-breeds, uses the Star of Bethlehem as its symbol. Hunmu is left puzzled, and asks the man to gather more information. Unexpectedly, Park Soo asks if Hunmu wants to clear a dungeon. Puzzled by this, he questions why he is asking this so suddenly. Park Soo advises Hunmu to build connections if he won't join a clan but still wants to rank up. The best way is gaining recognition by clearing dungeons to reach Liate's level. Since his training dungeon isn't recorded, no one sees him as a real hunter. This upcoming raid is his chance to get noticed and learn the ropes. Hiso tells him to wait for a call once preparations are done. Hunmu arrives at Cheonggi Mountain, a permanent one-star dungeon where new hunters test their skills and civilians hike or vacation. An overseer from the Great Unknown gathers the hunters and lines them up. Introducing herself as No Howl, she welcomes everyone. Her breath reeks of alcohol as she speaks, prompting her to explain that overseers are assigned to prevent rookie conflicts. Each team has a mid-ranked overseer from a different clan for this purpose. Now, Howl starts briefing the rookies on dungeon basics, beginning with the fact that dungeon difficulty increases with star ratings. She explains that there are two types of dungeons: mobile dungeons, more challenging due to shifting structures, and permanent dungeons, which have fixed layouts and are generally easier to clear. Since the rookies have never entered a dungeon, they don't know what to expect inside. That's why they're assigned an overseer. The drunken woman suddenly vomits, sheepishly apologizing that she was out late last night, and asks everyone to introduce themselves. The five-member team introduces themselves: Park Si-moon, a 2-star, Han Na-gyong, Kim Oh-young, Kim Suan, and Kang Hunmu, all 1-stars. The woman tries to recall Hunmu, listing a few institutions, but fails. Giving up. She asks about his weapon, and he pulls out a wooden rod from his inventory. She asks if that's really his weapon, and Hunmu explains, it's no ordinary stick. It's a goblin bat that makes monsters drop all their loot on contact. Park Moon snaps, dumping his weapons to prove even a 2-star needs proper gear. Before he can continue, the overseer knocks him down, shoving his weapon inches from his face, scolding him for breaking the rules by showing it off in public, risking a panic among civilians. After his apology, she helps him rise and leads the group toward the dungeon. Hunmu, watching silently, makes his conclusion. She's no Park Wisu, but still formidable for a mid-ranker. He decides to test her limits. Meanwhile, the goblin Hunmu dispatched in hell erupts from the earth behind him. The team steps inside, the dungeon gates sealing shut with a final, heavy thud as they trade uneasy glances. Inside, the overseer warns that this calm is deceptive. It will become a jungle deeper and where goblins spawn. She then asks if anyone knows the clearing procedure. Park Moon replies, their first objective is retrieving the return crystal. She confirms this, adding, the crystal is located in the goblin cave, their spawning point. Mentally, Hunmu likens the return crystal to his hearthstone. The overseer explains that rewards scale with more completed objectives, but their focus now must be the return crystal. She tells them to start exploring the dungeon while she observes from the rear, without intervening. Park soon takes point, warning the team to watch for overhead attacks and gather grass to mask their scent, insisting goblins have a keen sense of smell. When Hunmu objects, Parkoon retorts, he got this tip from a famous streamer who cleared dungeons on a live stream, sparking a dispute. The overseer intervenes, requesting Hunmu's cooperation. She asks why he's arguing, and Hunmu explains that goblins' keen smell easily distinguishes fresh grass from old, so masking their scent is useless. He also notes that since goblins are short, they should be watching their ankles, not their heads. The overseer then reveals that the streamer Park Si-moon followed used to clear 1-star dungeons 10 years ago. He now clears 3-star dungeons, and tactics must evolve with time. She's suspicious of Hunmu's detailed knowledge, but he dismisses it, claiming it's his first dungeon, and he just did his research. As they argue, a goblin creeps up, but Hunmu kicks it away. He taunts his teammate for mocking a weapon he has yet to even draw. The argument is abandoned as the team refocuses on the dungeon. The 3 1-star hunters fight in unison. Han Na-gyong lashes a goblin with her whip, Kim So-young stabs another with her dagger, and Kim Swan slashes a goblin with his sword. Park Se-moon, however, eliminates multiple goblins alone in a flash. Impressed by their performance, the overseer allows a short break. She notes the goblins seem terrified of something, and plans to investigate after the team extracts. Suddenly, a scream tears through the air, and the overseer sprints to the team. There she finds a goblin bound to a tree, covered in black fluid, its body horribly mutilated. She orders the team to find the return crystal immediately. This is too dangerous for a 1-star dungeon. At that moment, they realize Hunmu is gone. They search everywhere, but find no trace of him. Instead, their calls attract the attention of a far more dangerous creature, the red-cap goblin. 1 hour earlier, bored with these amateur goblins, Hunmu had slipped away. Once alone, he activates the family skill gained from defeating the red-capped goblin, which lets him designate a target as family, resurrecting them even outside of hell, provided their body isn't too damaged. With this power, Hunmu revives Kursonen, who claws his way from the ground. He tasks the goblin with eliminating every other goblin in this dungeon. Hesitant to kill his own kind, Hunmu warns Kursonen that his tribe will be annihilated if he refuses. As Kursonen stalks angrily toward a goblin, Hunmu feels a strange sensation. It's the link from his family skill, letting him sense Kursonen's disgust and hatred for his own kind, viewing these weaklings as goblins, an abomination to his species. Fueled by this rage, Kursonen vows to purge them all. Seeing him occupied, Hunmu decides to check back on the team. Meanwhile, the party is on the verge of retreat, having failed to find Hunmu. Just as they lose hope, he suddenly emerges from a bush. The overseer snaps at him for going off on his own, but he calmly explains he just needed to relieve himself. Noticing their frustration, he asks what's wrong. The overseer explains they plan to leave once they secure the return stone. At that moment, Park Si-moon spots it, bolts toward it. Desperate to escape, the man ignores all warnings, just as Kursonen appears and ensnares his leg. In an instant, Nahul surges forward, her twin blades drawn as others watch in shock. Amused, Hunmu observes, wondering how a mid-tier hunter from one of the 3 great clans, the Great Unknown, fares against a hell-spawned goblin. As Kursonen clashes with Nahul, Hunmu watches from afar, analyzing her every move. While his family skill grants him control, there's a catch. If the target's level is higher than the user's, his command is limited. Still, Hunmu isn't worried. Kursonen must obey if his tribe is to survive. Watching him butcher his own kind, Hunmu sees no hatred, only the agony of a puppet forced to betray its people. Hyunmu is relieved the others aren't intervening, letting him focus. He's curious if a mid-rank member of the Great Unknown clan can defeat a level 26 goblin. Kursonen feints toward the rookies, a distraction drawing Nahul away in a panic. As she closes in, he arcs through the air, leaving a vicious cut across her cheek as he lands behind her. Stunned by his precision and the quality of his gear, she wonders what a beast this powerful is doing in a 1-star dungeon. Hesitating, but with no choice, she activates her skill, Accelerate, and vanishes. Hunmu signals Kursonen to fall back, but in a blink, Nahul reappears behind him. As the goblin turns, she carves a bloody X across its chest. Her skill, Accelerate, doubles her movement speed for a short time, but if held for a longer duration, it endangers those around her. Wasting no time, she leaps and plunges her blade straight toward its skull. Kursonen moves so fast it's a blur to the eye. Suddenly, smoke erupts, catching Nahul off guard. As it clears, the goblin is already on top of Si-moon, its blade pressed to his throat. The goblin speaks, warning her to stay back, or he will end Si-moon. Nahul freezes. She's never seen a goblin speak before, let alone take a hostage. Nahul is torn between stopping a long-term threat or saving Park Se-om. In the end, she chooses to neutralize the greater threat, silently asking for Si-moon's forgiveness. Watching her sacrifice a teammate, Hunmu is disappointed. Without a thought, he slings a stone at the goblin with his stick. Kursonen reacts instantly, shoving the hostage aside to dodge the attack. The enhanced power from Hunmu's stick blasts a gaping hole in the tree, which thrills him. Nahul scolds Hunmu for trying to be a hero, ordering him to stay back. Of course, he refuses, stepping forward in defiance. Hunmu's defiance only fuels Nahul's fury, but it leaves him more disappointed. He never expected a mid-rank hunter from a famed clan to be so weak against a level 21 goblin. It makes him question if her clan is ready for a real manhwa level up. Mates are equally unprepared. Had she faced Kursonen in hell, Nahul wouldn't have survived a second. Then the chilling realization hits Hyunmu. Kursonen had intended to execute his hostage if she had charged him. If this creature isn't fully under his control, someone is going to die. To calm her down, our man explains he's not judging, just helping, because if Si-moon had died, it would have meant serious trouble for her. However, letting the goblin roam free creates even bigger problems. But still, he stresses, sacrificing the poor guy isn't the answer. Hunmu pushes for a solution, proposing that he fight to resolve this and get better dungeon results. He launches another pebble from his stick at the goblin, this time hitting it squarely. Nahul dashes forward, determined to redeem her mistake by finishing Kursonen. Hyunmu rushes before her, his stick clashing with Kursonen's sword, but he overpowers it, forcing the goblin back. He signals a warning as Nahul closes in from behind. Her blades slice through Kursonen's skin as he falls, his feet kicking out at her in the process. Hyunmu spins Kursonen with his stick, sending him crashing to the ground, mentally conveying the message that this is better than a blade in the back. Nahul strikes again, but Kursonen dodges and counters, their weapons screaming against each other. During the fight, Kursonen steps on a bush, and just as Nahul attacks, just as her blade is about to land, Si-moon dives between them, absorbing Kursonen's blow, sending them both crashing down. He signals the goblin to flee, which then deploys another smoke bomb. The overseer charges forward, but by the time she reaches him, the creature has vanished. Hunmu lets out a tense breath. Despite the chaos of his first dungeon run, it was managed, leaving him anticipating a high score. As the smoke clears, Nahul spots a blood trail left by Kursonen and decides to pursue it, telling Hunmu to escort the others out safely. However, she quickly loses the trail and returns to headquarters for an investigation. There, she learns the dungeon's rank is unchanged, and no other teams have reported anything unusual. The man at the desk refuses to believe her, stating that the dungeon is still a permanent type. Sitting on a bench to collect her thoughts, Nahul is startled by Hunmu's sudden appearance. He asks if she found the goblin, and she admits she did, but in an unrecognizable state. She theorizes that the other goblins may have seen the goblin's wounds as a chance to turn on him. She took the red cap as evidence, and will examine it further. She thanks him for his help, but he brushes it off, asking if his skills are sufficient for a 2-star dungeon. Nahul is surprised, pointing out that the goblin they battled seemed to be at least from a 3-star dungeon. She asks about his prior dungeon experience, to which he denies. Then she wonders if he was in a low-ranked dungeon due to restrictions, and he confirms it. Nahul thinks to herself that someone so skilled must have entered with an overseer, likely intending to join a clan. Seeing potential in him, she offers her card, explaining that joining a clan would grant access to higher, ranked dungeons with the support of clan members. Hunmu asks for time, but shuts her down when she tries to pressure him. He insists he's fine alone, citing their failure to clear the dungeon and his dislike of splitting the loot. She tries to argue, but he walks off, hoping for a positive report from her. At the research center, Chief Du Wongyang is deep in her work when a knock goes unanswered. Moments later, an employee bursts in, mentioning an odd rank evaluation submitted by Nahul. Annoyed at being disturbed over something so minor, she snaps, but he quickly assures her it's worth her time and hands over the report. Stunned, she asks if it's a system glitch, but the man assures her it was double-checked. A 5- or 6-star case would have been amusing. This one leaves her at a complete loss for words. Another staffer rushes in with another strange report from the Gangnam Ability Center. Just like the last one, it concerns Kang Hunmu. He was tested 3 times, and each result came back off the charts. A third employee rushes in, saying, "The Great Unknown offered 1 million for Hunmu's info before the official results." The chief scoffs, telling them to ignore it. An S-rank hunter with 78-star potential is worth far more. She orders everyone to keep the report buried and delay its release until they locate Hunmu. She needs answers. Meanwhile, Hunmu lies on his bathroom floor, preparing for another test with Yum's help. Ability users are ranked by a star-based system, separate from their levels. Each rank has a level cap they cannot exceed, 50 levels for a 4-star, 40 for a 3-star, and decreased by 10 levels for each star below. While regular people can awaken from 0 to 1 star from mana exposure, no one already awakened has ever managed to raise their rank. After reaching his max level of 20, Hunmu began to wonder if it was somehow possible to raise his rank. To find out, he turned to Yum, a lab assistant and recent graduate researching mana and ability awakenings. Yum extracts his blood to conduct detailed tests, as the Ability User Bureau only provides temporary tests due to budget limitations. They expected the blood to be toxic and shatter the tubes, but nothing happens, leaving them baffled, making them think his poison must only activate under certain conditions. Afterwards, she hands him a document stating that long-term exposure to high-density mana could lead to a rank-up. With no other options, Hunmu knows he must explore this in hell. Seeing a glowing notification indicating 9 days until the next quest, he realizes time only passes when he's in hell. Determined, he decides to spend as much time there as possible. In hell, Hunmu, he maximizes his time, forging a legendary blood-soaked blade from raw materials. At the very moment of its creation, the starving star, Yogol, fixes its gaze upon him. Awestruck, Hunmu shows a crystal stone to Renayan, who says it is refined from crystal moss, a key component for legendary gear when fused with rare materials. While Renayan and Kersanen talk, our hero he greedily demands half the goblin's rare gear, promising future rewards, all under the silent gaze of a star. With the goblin's equipment and the crystal stone, he crafts another legendary item, the Arm of Ashet, a left-hand gauntlet offering low agility but moderate physical and magical defense. The Bloodflow blade he forged has medium penetration, low physical damage, and moderate magic damage. For 9 grueling days, Hunmu trained with his new arsenal. Mastering the lone gauntlet and honing his skills, he built a shelter and endured his body melting in acid, which gave his very blood corrosive properties. With Kersanen, he scouted Hell's landscapes, all while Yogol kept its watchful eye on him. Finally, his new quest activates, Bottom of the Pyramid, requiring 24 hours of survival against those intent on killing him. Each death resets the timer. The star offers a challenge, increase the difficulty, but promise double the rewards. For Hunmu, whose entire existence was a desperate manhwa level up, this was a perfect opportunity, and he accepts. As the quest starts, all stars focus on him. Before Hunmu can process it, Yogol's family begins hunting him for the next 48 hours. At that moment, he is suddenly cursed. The curse's name, Tasty. Trying to understand, Hunmu sees Renayan and Kersanen drooling, their eyes fixed on him. He warns them away, but Renayan explains the curse makes him irresistible, like a seasoning for Yogol's banquet hall. He asks if she knows more about the curse, and she explains anyone affected becomes addicted to the taste and smell, a flavor they can never find again. Thankfully, Renayan, being a fairy with a promised end, is immune. She adds that Yogel's world is one of pure survival. Creatures either eat, or they are eaten. Behind him, Kursonen is still drooling. Irritated, Hunmu spins, punches his face, and tells him to wipe the drool away. As he tries to devise a survival plan, Hunmu realizes anything living will attack him on sight. Just as he's about to ask Renian something, the door explodes open. Mosquitoes swarm the room, latching onto his skin. While Hunmu smashes them, he is confused, as mosquitoes shouldn't be active now. Renian says these are the lowest rank in Yogel's family, its youngest and fastest monsters, which means everything under Yogel's control is now coming to hunt him. Stepping outside, Hunmu faces flocks of strange pigeons, all after him. The sight is amusing at first, until they begin to chase him. Joined by the mosquitoes, he breaks into a sprint with Kursonen alongside him. Hunmu asks if his village has a place to hide. Kursonen hesitates, then declines, claiming it is overcrowded from a rising birth rate. Frustrated by this oversight, Hunmu groans as a notification shows Yogel is still watching. He and Kursonen leap off a cliff, silently wishing for a fair fight. Landing near enemies below, he thinks his wish is granted. Smirking, he slips on his legendary gauntlet, draws his blood-soaked blade, and charges the monsters, but his joy vanishes as a beast rips him apart instantly, resetting his survival time just 2 days in. The poor man keeps dying to ghouls, the timer resetting each time under Yogel's watchful gaze, which infuriates Hunmu. Left with no choice, he plays a lethal game of hide-and-seek for the remaining 47 hours. At this point, he jokes they might as well cook or steam him to make it easier. He wonders where Kursonen vanished to, though if he were here, he would probably just get in the way. As his mind races for a plan, a voice suddenly echoes in his head, telling him to turn right at the next alleyway. He hesitates, unsure if it was just his own mind fracturing, but he decides to follow the voice. Hunmu wonders if he's finally snapped after dying so many times. The voice, sensing his doubt, insists this is no delusion. With no better option, he follows, half convinced he's being haunted, only for the voice to flatly deny being a ghost. Hunmu veers right, escaping just as the ghasts slam into the wall. His relief shatters as a giant spider erupts from the ground, looming over him. The voice screams for him to duck as the spider fires a web, ensnaring the monsters chasing him. The colossal creature, a widow spider at level 87, leaves Hunmu utterly stunned. The voice reassures him he is safe, for now, until Yogalame's patience runs out. However, Hunmu is more focused on identifying who is speaking to him. The voice responds, claiming it's from a world where stars are silenced, and nothing exists by its own will. Only one star can now whisper to him, and she materializes before him, the whispering star, Monstral. She explains that her actions will appear as mere coincidence to Yogalame, so he will never discover the truth. Monstral warns Hunmu not to speak aloud to her, urging him to act as if he's simply strategizing internally. If Yogalame suspects anything, it could enrage him, placing them both in mortal danger. Hunmu asks if she's the only one who can hear his thoughts, and she explains she can only do so when his thoughts are directed at her. Relieved, he asks why she is helping him. She reveals that Yogalame plans to elevate his rank by feeding Hunmu to his own family. Monstral urges him to complete the trial swiftly before it's too late and to join her family. Doubting her interest since he's barely stronger than a goblin, he demands to know why she wants him. She explains they need a new player to break the stalemate they are trapped in, and every faction is scheming to acquire one. He presses for more answers, but Monstral insists he join her family first, warning that what others have planned for him is far worse. The goddess demands love, worship, and praise, offering the same to Hunmu in an intimate, lover's relationship. He feels the potent allure of her offer, tempted by the power and validation she promises, believing it might help him survive this hell alone, if he just accepts. As Gaul, the shattering star, begins its observation, Hunmu snaps out of the trance, rejecting her offer by stating he already has a girlfriend. Our hero gazes at the silent, glowing star, certain he must have angered Monstral, but she tells him it's a waste for a hero to have just one girlfriend. Initially, she thought he'd see reason after being devoured by Yogalame a few more times, but instead, she decides to grant him his exit by completing his toy, since he rejected the easier path she offered. Spiders swarm over Hunmu's gloved hand as Monstral commands them to cocoon him. Meanwhile, Kursonen and Renayan follow the web trail. Renayan leads him directly to Hunmu's cocoon and urges him to tear it open. Inside, Hunmu lies motionless. Kursonen hoists him into the air and punches his gut to awaken him. He wakes up, completely drained. Kursonen urges them to get moving, but Hunmu collapses to his knees, begging them to wait. Renayan leaps at the chance to drink his blood, claiming it will heal him, but Hunmu furiously refuses. She teases him, but he snaps back, blaming her for his near death, which nearly forced the entire quest to restart. Hunmu changes focus, clearing the webbing to survey their location. A bizarre orc stands frozen, encased in spiders and webs, and he questions what such a creature is even doing here. Kursonen calls out, intrigued by the item on Hunmu's left hand, as it is something he has never seen before. Hunmu notices a sixth finger on the Oshet's gauntlet, recalling Monstrel's words about completing his toy. He opens his inventory and finds the precise item he's searching for. Renian asks about it, and he reminds her of the skeleton they found, revealing he had pilfered an item from it. Admiral Lenz's monocle, a legendary item that allows him to examine objects at the cost of his mana. Using the monocle, he identifies the item on his hand as Oshet's six-fingered hand. This legendary and real item can be worn on both hands, and its upgraded stats triple his grip strength, a true manhwa level up that ensures he can hold onto a captured target with webs unless he chooses to release them or the glove is destroyed. He has never encountered an item labeled as real before, making him question if his previously acquired items were ever genuine. Were all legendary items a lie, or was this god-tier glove the one exception? He smirked. Victory seemed inevitable with this toy, but Kersenen's voice was a chilling reminder of the cost. They had to leave. Outside, the ghasts found a gaping hole, a broken pipe dripping with blood, a calculated invitation to their doom. One creature tastes it, and the scent drives the others wild, swarming the pipe. Inside, a ghast is snared in web, as a mosquito begins to feed, prompting the other monsters to join the feast, devouring their own kind. Hunmu had resurrected this insect as kin, and now watches the carnage unfold. Surrounded by mosquitoes, the webs from his glove hold the monster fast. As the ghasts devour their own, Hunmu sends another mosquito to repeat the cycle. Watching the chaos from the tunnel, he smirks while letting a few mosquitoes feed on his arm to turn them into his kin. These mosquitoes obey him because before the quest began, Hunmu's experiments showed he could control only a limited number of beings with his family skill. However, he found he could control more smaller beings than larger ones. Additionally, the mosquitoes that died from his toxic blood revived with poison resistance. A twisted asterisk, manhwa level up asterisk, giving him an effective way to deal with the monsters. Kersonen comments on how unfortunate it is that these strong beings are so brainless, which makes Hunmu praise the goblins for picking a shelter with multiple exits, smart enough to keep from getting trapped while dealing with the ghasts. Just as Hunmu feels surviving the next 48 hours in this place might be easy, dizziness hits and he collapses. Kersonen rushes to his side, worried. Hunmu realizes the mosquitoes drained more blood than he expected. He will need a new plan. Kersonen helps him up as they hear something slicing through the web nest, drawing closer. Sensing a smarter, more dangerous presence than the ghasts, he summons his weapon. Hunmu tells Kersonen to stay back. The space is tight, he needs room to fight. Multiple pairs of green eyes glare at them from the dark. As Hunmu tries to assess their numbers, a soldier in uniform approaches from the shadows, followed by others. When the light reveals them, Hunmu sees uniformed zombies. The hungry, all level 23. Their leader orders them to hunt our guy. He locks the blade into his gauntlet's grip, ensnares it in web, and hurls it at an enemy's head. The bleeding blade's special trait allows him to inject his blood directly into the target. Hunmu pulls his blade free, watching as zombies gather around the one injected with his blood, tearing it apart. The furious leader quickly orders his troops to refocus on Hunmu, who is trying to run, and they take off after him, crawling out of the sewers. Hunmu briefly thinks of reasoning with them, but discards the idea. They're not human, and are fully under Yoga's control. The zombies, however, are at the same level as Hunmu. Still, they have military training. When they start shooting, one bullet grazes his leg, prompting their leader to order the troops to stop wasting ammo. Hunmu feels a brief relief at that and starts planning an escape. Suddenly, a pin drops. Silence surrounds him. Then, he checks his leg. His blood has stopped flowing. After that, the air fills with the shrieks of ghasts. If he were still in the sewers, he could have easily survived. But in an open space, he's too vulnerable. With only 46 minutes left, he knows he could be killed many times over before it expires. As all the zombies climb from the sewers, Hunmu's regeneration perk activates due to his critical health. With zombies in front and ghasts closing from behind, he pulls a crystal stone from his inventory, consumes it, and feels his mana flow, fully restoring his strength. As the enemies get close, he uses his domination skill, forcing the zombies to leap over him and start attacking the ghasts. Because of his skill, zombies were more drawn to the amplified stench of Hunmu's blood coming from the ghasts, which were bitten by his mosquitoes. Instead of controlling them, he simply showed them that what they craved was inside the ghasts. Watching the zombies tear into the other creatures, he couldn't help but wonder if this is what humanity looked like before extinction. Suddenly, gunshots ring out. The zombies are in position with Hunmu in their crosshairs. His domination skill doesn't affect the remaining zombies due to their distance. The zombies switch their guns too. Their weapons lock on. The leader screams to fire, but a blur of motion intercepts the command. A force cleaves their heads clean from their bodies. It is Ken, who has arrived to rescue his master. In his hands, the legendary scythe of the Winter Gatherer, a weapon gifted to him as a reward by Hunmu, which tracks nearby foes and inflicts a deathly frost upon killing them. The scythe once belonged to undead thralls, the Winter Duke's own hunting dogs. The Duke, who loathed being seen, never showed himself, sending the Winter Gatherer to handle intruders. Though none have seen him, a chance remains. After Kersonen decapitates the undead, he tells Hunmu to save his gratitude. There will be plenty more chances. The leader, enraged by his group's demise, snatches a gun from the ground and attempts to fire, but the scythe's power has frozen the weapon's nozzle. Confused, the zombie loses focus, giving Kersonen an opening to strike him down. Hunmu, witnessing this, recalls that Kersonen used to hesitate whenever he asked for aid. But ever since acquiring that weapon, he was surprisingly compliant, a true slave to material desire. As our guy was lost in thought, a ghast lunged, and he dodged just in time, only narrowly escaping, for more to swarm him. But then, the zombies turn on them, and begin devouring the ghasts instead. Scanning the chaos, Hunmu realizes the zombies have doubled, and his mana is critically low. He cannot maintain domination much longer. Just then, swarms of mosquitoes flood the area, drawn by his blood and triggered into a frenzy now that night has fallen. To shield himself from the insects, Hunmu dons a spiderweb poncho he crafted, while the zombies and ghasts are utterly overwhelmed by the mosquitoes. In the bedlam of close combat, the creatures cannot distinguish friend from foe. With most enemies frozen by the scythe, he has a real chance of surviving until the timer expires. He tries to focus on lasting the 48 hours, not on wiping out every foe, but then he lets his guard down. A nearby zombie sinks its teeth into his leg. As Yogalame watches, amused, he crushes its head, but the bite has already caused severe bleeding. To recover, he summons his kin mosquitoes to draw blood and help replenish his own. A scream tears from Hunmu as he collapses, the mosquitoes draining too much blood from his body. The ghasts begin to close in on him, and just as one lunges with razor-sharp claws, he snaps, tearing its arm off like a cornered animal. His teeth sharpen, his skin cracks. Our main character goes feral, shredding them in a savage frenzy. Another ghast leaps at Hunmu. He jumps onto its back and seizes its face, biting deep into its flesh. The ghast's blood mixes with his own poisoned vitae, a grotesque manhwa level up that adds a new trait to his abilities. Medium toxicity, with low acidity and ineffectiveness. Drinking their blood boosts his strength by 30% until it is exhausted, but it causes an intense hunger, rapidly burning any food. And on an empty stomach, it begins to devour the user's own body. The skill enhances his strength by consuming his very flesh. Hunmu sees his hand withering. No blood remains. His body feeds on itself, for he lacks blood at this moment. Hunger strikes hard, like his stomach is eating him alive. He crushes a zombie's skull in his grip, and suddenly 3 stars, Conquering Star Arden, Whispering Star Monstriel, and Monstrous Star Agustro, focus on him. Now that he has tasted true power, Hunmu understands how the stars feel when they crush mortals with agony, force their submission, and then gaze down upon them from above. Gripping his blood-soaked blade, Hunmu taunts the stars, daring them to cast judgment. He lets out a deafening roar, gathering all his power, and charging into the horde of enemies, his blade slicing through the middle of their bodies. But a ghast lands a brutal punch to his face, slamming him hard to the ground. It pounces on our poor guy, crushing his head into the dirt and slashing at his chest with its claws. His vision is overwhelmed by the sight of the ghouls, their tongues lolling hungrily as they swarm around him. Hunmu is surrounded by ghasts who begin to devour him. He screams in agony as his hands stop trembling and the hunger takes complete control. With a feral growl, he bites back at the enemies that were eating him, ripping them to shreds. He curses them, vowing to tear off their limbs. With teeth bared and a gloved hand clawing, he crushes their skulls in his grip and devours what remains. The undead leader stares at him from the ground, utterly regretting this dinner invitation and bringing his soldiers. Watching the monsters fall, he considers escape, but gives in to his own curiosity. The captain demanded Hunmu's identity and clan, trying to place him in his squad. Hunmu paused his chewing, his focus shifting entirely. The zombie snatched a gun, but its chamber was empty. It scrambled back, its hand landing on a severed ghast's claw. Wielding its sharp nail, the zombie slashed viciously at Hunmu, knocking him to the dirt. As it prepared to strike again, Hunmu devoured its entire hand and then bit clean through its face, continuing his grotesque feast. Finally, the timer expired. The quest, the bottom of the barrel, was complete. Hunmu received a silver box, which instantly upgraded to gold due to the level to difficulty contrast. Yogalame then reshaped the box into a gift, acknowledging that Hunmu had completed the challenge. A system notice confirmed his return stone would be active for 28 days, and that his hunger curse was now deactivated. Utterly exhausted, Hunmu collapsed as the area glowed, and a notification confirmed he had absorbed a shard. This was the brutal reality of his manhwa level up. Staring at the system text, his stomach growled with a primal hunger. He surveyed the carnage, wondering what he had become. Though time remained, he felt he might actually starve to death. Suddenly, a trumpet blared. He thought it was over, but the true nightmare was just arriving. A group of bizarre monsters appeared, flags held high, playing strange instruments. Among them were samurai-like figures, and a form with a black cloth over his face sat atop a massive beast, holding its leash. It pulled a caravan, flanked by beings far stronger than any zombie or ghast, who guarded the carriage. Hunmu watched, intrigued, as the caravan was lowered. A voice from within praised him for defeating his enemies despite being so unprepared. The speaker, a long, gray-skinned creature draped in gold jewelry, Kawaro of satiation and sloth, level 118. Kawaro was impressed by Hunmu's survival at such a low level, finally understanding the starving star's obsession with him. Believing humans extinct, he asked if other survivors existed. When Hunmu stayed silent, Kawaro pricked him with a long, sharp nail, drawing blood, and licked his finger. He quickly deduced there were no others. It was as if this man had fallen from the sky. Kawaro believed all humans perished after the last survivors, John and Maria Keller. Seeing Hunmu so fresh and alive, he saw a precious child who shouldn't be left out in the cold. He gathered corpses, rolled them into a grotesque ball, and pressed it to our guy's leg, healing it instantly. He could walk. Kawaro offered Hunmu a warm welcome, an invitation to the finest feast. But Hunmu, sensing Yogalame's trap, refused to be treated as the main course. At this, the creature erupted in laughter, claiming Hunmu misunderstood. Hunger, he declared, is the purest form of greed. Yogalame's eternal hunger consumes everything: power, influence, desire, and wealth-granting control at will. Kawaro reflected on his own past. Back when he was human, he told Hunmu he once felt worthless, shackled by morality and rules, achieving nothing. The rage of not being rewarded for his efforts still burned inside him. He read Hunmu, sensing that same entitlement. While most are selfish, he realized, only a precious few are truly consumed by greed. He tried to stir Hunmu's curiosity, urging him to imagine what he could achieve by climbing higher. They would be as snakes, devouring everything, even the world itself. Kawaro invited Hunmu to join the family of Yogalame. The scene shifts to Yumi, who has fallen asleep at her desk while researching. Waking, she gazed out the window. As the sun set in Yumi's world, a crimson moon burned in Hunmu's. Pretending to submit, he activated his glove, extending a hand to Kawaro, who believed he had finally chosen to join them. But our guy gripped the gray hand and bit deep into Kawaro's flesh. Enraged, Kawaro hurled him to the ground. Hunmu taunted, "Do all traitors taste worse than zombies?" As Kawaro, seething, licked his fresh wound. Wounded, he erupts in fury at the insult, launching forward with blinding speed to stop just before Hunmu. Deciding Hunmu is a lost cause, Kawaro threatens to execute the last human. But our hero isn't fooled. He knows they need him alive to shatter their current stalemate. He understands that he's the new variable, the solution to their crisis. Kawaro is stunned, so Hunmu decides to press his advantage, goading the creature to end his life. Snatching him by the throat and hoisting him high, Kawaro snarls, asking how he prefers to perish: crushed, broken, or smashed. He demands Hunmu shriek with that defiant mouth of his. Kawaro briefly questions if Hunmu truly descended from the sky. He cannot believe the human thinks he allied with monsters to annihilate humankind. As he constricts his hold on Hunmu's neck, prepared to extinguish him, a system notification appears. The monstrous star August has commenced its observation. A thunderous voice erupts, lifting Hunmu into the air. Bodies are hurled aside, and Kawaro is blasted away, crashing to the ground. Hunmu's feet touch down again, but he feels weak and collapses onto the ground. The shockwaves from the blast radiate to Kawaro's people, causing structures to disintegrate. Panic erupts as they grasp the unfolding chaos. Kawaro, now on his knees, cries out for forgiveness, claiming he never meant to violate the rules. He was merely carried away. He orders his people to fall back, then turns and flees. As the fleet disappears, Hunmu hears another scream, followed by sizzling bolts of lightning. He ponders what all of this signifies. He reflects on recent events, realizing Kawaro feared something dwelling beyond the sky. Gritting his teeth, he screams at the heavens, enraged at the unseen entities toying with him. Even if his body is torn or crushed, or scorched, he is resolved to endure whatever they inflict. But he succumbs to utter exhaustion. In a brief vision, he glimpses Yum bathed in sunlight, welcoming him home, until Renian's voice shatters the illusion. She indicates the bite mark on her leg, something he inflicted after losing his senses. His eyes had glowed green, and he appeared feral. She assures him it's all right, that she recovered by drinking his blood, so now they are even. Hunmu checks his inventory, discovering a gift box from Yogimi. Inside, a platinum card edged in white gold gleams before transforming into a stark, thin blade, much to his disappointment. Still, given the card's rarity, he decides to inspect it closely. After examining it, he discovers it is Gluttony, a weapon with meager stats that absorbs abilities from sacrificed weapons. Formerly wielded by Aladamaharo, kin of Yokoame, the weapon's true nature is unknown, as it assumes the form of whatever it consumes. Research shows many legendary figures have wielded Gluttony at least once. Though still disappointed, Hunmu reasons that though the blade appears plain, it's authentic and trusted by the powerful. Hunmu hesitantly attempts to feed his blood-soaked short blade to Gluttony. At first, nothing occurs, but on his second attempt, a spark flashes as Gluttony devours the blade and absorbs its form, now a newly forged legendary sword seething with blood. Its stats are also absorbed, and its special effect allows it to siphon vital fluids from his foes. If the expelled fluid touches an ally, they are healed. But if it contacts an enemy, It inflicts damage. Delighted with the upgrade, Hunmu tells Renian he likes it, and he can grow stronger with it. She remarks that she enjoys his happiness and hopes he'll become tastier, making Hunmu uneasy. He tells Renian he is heading to the location where they found the skeleton. Leaving it amidst its belongings feels wrong, and he hopes to at least identify it and provide a proper grave marker. He thinks whoever it was, to survive to the end, must have been a rancor. The zombies had human intellect but lusted for human flesh. The Kawaro, once human, now command monsters. Hunmu wonders if he is different, since he also commands Kursen and Renian, but he tells himself that at least he has not succumbed to greed. Hunmu admires the skeleton, once human itself, for protecting others alone in a world of monsters, and he searches for clues to its identity. Opening a drawer, he discovers a journal and starts reading, hoping it contains the answers. High-grade items are not the only treasures. Potent information can reshape the world. The journal he holds has chronicled everything from the creation of the very first dungeon to humanity's final days. The journal details every event, date, and preventive measure, making Hunmu realize if it is true, he holds the key to saving all of humanity. In awe of the skeleton, he vows to honor its final wish. With this invaluable knowledge, he resolves to either restore the world or change it. The brutal calculus of survival. Deep in a darkened forest, a woman's desperate cries for her son, Maru, tear through the trees. He has vanished. She hears a rustle in the shadows, spins around, and a scream rips from her lungs at the sight of a shambling corpse. Hunmu roars with laughter, retelling this to Yuman, mocking the woman's sheer terror. He scoffs that she actually called the police, and Yuman, amused, asks how he managed to look so much like the Walking Dead. Yuman then shifts the subject, asking why he needed her to teach him how to burn through cash. She notes how others flaunt their wealth, but what she likes is that he's nothing like them. It makes her question if he secretly craved that lavish lifestyle himself. They clink glasses, and he declares that after grinding so hard, it's finally his turn to live like royalty. She admits her mistake, thinking he'd dismiss it as pretentious. He retorts, frustrated, that people who judge without ever tasting a life like this are just pathetic. She concedes she thought he secretly yearned for luxury. Hunmu acknowledges he has his own demons, admitting to a savage streak, but refuses to blame it on being an orphan. He owns who he is, convinced parents wouldn't have changed a thing. Yuman just smiles and tells him that of all the men she's ever dated, he's the kindest. Hunmu, baffled, questions how a grad student even finds the time to date or hit up restaurants like this one. He jokes she should be buried under coursework. Annoyed, she snaps that outside of their dates, she's either chained to the lab or doing grueling fieldwork for her professor. The talk reminds her of the blood work she ran to map his mana for the next rank up, since his own attempts to gauge it were futile. Suddenly, a system notification chimes. His status has exploded from level 20 to 26. Stunned, he asks Yuman about the results of her analysis. She informs him his user ability rank is unclassifiable. When he asks if that's good or bad, she insists it's not a conversation for a public restaurant. Meanwhile, deep in hell, Kursen and Scythe reaps the last of the ghasts. His armor shreds as his frame expands with raw power. The hobgoblin has just hit level 27, his physique now monstrously dense. Back in the real world, Hunmu is trying to decipher Yuman's research. When she emerges from the shower, she's shocked he can read German. But while his skill allows him to read the words, he still can't comprehend the meaning. Yuman, already expecting this, has a summary prepared, showing him an image of blood cells and crystals gathered in his dantian. She explains that mana normally pools in the dantian, and samples from that core are always laced with crystals. The very shape of those crystals defines a user's rank. Needle-like crystals mean 1 star. Triangular ones signal a 3-star. Hunmu's crystals, however, were perfectly circular, a formation never before documented in any hunter. Yuman then recalls the only other time such a sample was recorded was from a monster's corpse. Memories of when he lost control and became a beast himself flash through Hunmu's mind. Sensing his sudden tension, Yuman quickly backpedals. She's not calling him a monster, just pointing out the terrifying parallel. Mana has the most profound effect on the body, so he could be a higher rank than ever recorded. She's even heard whispers of 5-star entities, which means he might be a 6-star or beyond. When she asks what he thinks, he's certain he's no mere 1-star. He remembers the first system message he saw in Hell. It just said, "Mana has awakened," with no mention of a rank. When she tries to confirm he was level 20, he corrects her. He's already shot up to level 26. She's stunned a 6-level jump in just 11 days. This is a true manhwa level up scenario. She realizes his physical changes must be linked to this, and wonders if she needs an assistant for her now incredibly complex research. Hunmu, however, is wary. He can't let anyone else know his secret unless he can trust them with his life. He worries Yuman already found someone, but she denies it, sharing her own suspicions about Sojan Laboratory being onto them. The Sojan Laboratory, the shadowy government agency managing all hunters and dungeons nationwide, has been delaying this year's official competency report, almost certainly because of his results. They've also spammed his inbox, and their scouts have been hunting for him. Hunmu unlocks his phone, realizing the messages he dismissed as junk could be critical. Yoan watches him with a strangely sorrowful look. Seeing this, he sets his phone aside, beckoning her closer. As he dries her hair, Hunmu offers to fund her lab equipment, knowing the brutal demands of her research. She protests, citing the immense cost and lack of space. He counters, revealing his plan to buy a massive, isolated home, a fortress that could double as a bunker. Yum scoffs, but a sudden blast of heat makes her cry out, a red mark blooming on her forehead. Instantly apologetic, Hunmu cools the burn, trying to persuade her that his reliance on her can't last forever. Playfully, she asks where she's supposed to go. He feigns ignorance before quickly assuring her she is coming with him. Her eyes then fall upon the new scars on his hands, her expression hardening. He dismisses it, claiming a lack of healing potions, but the truth is, his regeneration failed after his last descent into that abyss. She traces a scar, asking if it hurts. He lies, it'll fade. Then, she shockingly bites his arm, murmuring that he smells good. Terror grips him, but it subsides when she admits she only wanted to leave her mark. He gently strokes her hair and claims her cheek. The next morning, with Yum still asleep, Hunmu is up early, reviewing recordings of his past battles. The memories of his transformation into a beast against Yogel's family haunt him. As he tries to dismiss the chilling memory, a system notification abruptly appears. He has acquired a fragment. The patterns on his hand have shifted, revealing a level 2 fragment imbued with the power of kin absorption. The description is incomplete, with words missing. Delving into its power, he learns its special ability is to turn anyone the user vanquishes into a kin, summonable anywhere, though there's a risk of losing control if the target is a higher level than the user. The details are like something from a classic **** manhwa level up *** story. He can absorb a target's energy, mana, and even a portion of their skills for a short time. The duration hinges on how well-resourced the target was. It reminds him of the old consume skill, a power he desperately needed back in Yogel's trial. He starts to suspect this new power is tied to that event. Just then, Hiso arrives at the gym, summoned by Hunmu, and expecting a rematch. Hunmu commands him to stand still for an inspection. Offended by the order, Hiso demands to know what he's playing at. The lens reveals the old man is level 40, with skills like double cut and breathless stealth. Annoyed, Hiso snaps at him for wasting his time, but Hunmu praises his raw power, despite the basic skills. To gain his trust, Hunmu shows him the lens and explains the test results from Yum that will correct his rank. Hiso is stunned to see Hunmu's true level is 26, confirming his suspicions about the delay from the Sojan Laboratory's rank report, a rare occurrence that has only happened once before. He mentions another human reported complaints from clan leaders, and Hiso concedes it's a major problem. A user's rank is tied to wealth, he explains, so the clans will soon descend upon Hunmu. Handing back the lens, Hiso admits he now sees Hunmu as a person of great influence. Our guy suggests that if he truly believes that, he should switch allegiances. While honored, the old man speaks of bonds he cannot easily sever. Hunmu insists it is for Hiso's own good. The man could swear loyalty with mere words now, or beg for the chance later. Our bro is certain it is only a matter of time before he surpasses Lee. Hunmu asks a favor, wanting to introduce Hiso to someone. He summons Kersonen, catching the old man completely off guard and forcing him to draw his blade in defense. Hunmu quickly reassures him, de-escalating the situation. The goblin, ever a nuisance, had assumed his master was dead from the long silence. The old man is floored to hear Kersonen call Hunmu master. Our guy notices his slave-transformed body and questions it. The goblin explains he enjoyed wielding the scythe, so he carved through Yogel's remaining swine, triggering an upgrade. Hiso is stunned, realizing Hunmu not only controls a monster, he can even communicate with it. The old man calls the goblin a low intellect, infuriating the creature, which lunges at him. Hiso blocks with his blade, but Kersonen's blinding speed and raw power take him by surprise. The scythe's chill freezes his blade as Kersonen taunts him. However, our guy jumps in. He takes control of the situation, telling Kersonen to back off. The old man sheathes his weapon. Hunmu then asks Hiso's opinion on the goblin, and Hiso admits he's heard of a goblin in a 1-star dungeon that terrifies newbies. Hunmu says he needs a favor, which leads the old man to believe he wants him to harbor a monster. Hunmu clarifies he only needs the goblin relocated. Hiso hesitates, but he stresses he just needs Kirsten sent to a specific place, a dungeon. The journal Hunmu found revealed a flood is coming to Jiaolu Dungeon, set to break the walls within just 10 minutes. Hunters will block it at first, but their corruption will be exposed, causing chaos and unpreparedness for the disasters that are sure to follow. Hunmu tells Hiso he'll prepare his own way. So, he is sending Kirsten into that exact same dungeon. The old man is understandably hesitant, initially reluctant to deal with a monster, but Hunmu shows him a piece of crystal moss, a quiet threat to the old man's entire supply chain, quickly gaining his compliance. He requests a raise, but Hiso warns increasing profits by 150% is hard. Hunmu asks for a twofold raise. Hiso remarks that Hunmu would be in serious trouble if he wasn't his only supplier. Hunmu cuts him off, offering to double the supply as well. This is what Hiso had been asking for all along. but Hunmu held out, causing a shortage. Hunmu knew top hunters just wanted crystal moss for a quick manhwa level up, their rank much faster. Days later, Hunmu and Yum visit a house. An agent shows them a massive bunker-like home, first started by a paranoid father during the military regime and expanded by his son. Convinced the North would be bombed, after dungeons appeared, the grandson then feared monsters would escape and destroy humanity. So, he finished this house, fortified against attacks, bombs, and monsters. Hunmu finds it deeply ironic that the grandson's paranoia is about to become reality. He sees its advantages and asks the agent why he's only showing it now. The agent reveals that the grandson, once terrified of the outside, was killed trying to escape the bunker. The killer was never found. Despite there being only one exit and full CCTV coverage, the case remains unsolved. His paranoia led to illegal modifications, making the structure unstable. One more reason the agent hadn't shown it sooner. Hunmu thought Yum wouldn't approve, but she's excited to investigate the house for ghosts. Hunmu argues the price is unreasonable given its issues, and offers to pay in cash. At his request, the agent calls the owner to negotiate a much fairer deal. The owner asks to speak to Hunmu, and it turns out the property is owned by Seojin Laboratory. Chief Du Wongyong is in charge of the sale. Moments later, her car pulls up, leaving Yum stunned. Du Wongyong rushes toward Hunmu, to Yum's clear displeasure, then turns her attention to Yum. The two women exchange passive-aggressive barbs, mocking each other. Hunmu watches their heated exchange, uneasy. The professor then shifts her focus to him, addressing the real issue. Confirming no clan affiliation, she offers him the shelter for free, with an annual income of 8,000, and a public official's pension, and insurance on par with a vice minister, if he agrees to work for their laboratory. He is, of course, initially skeptical, but Du Wongyong explains the lab only needs occasional blood and physical tests from him. Hunmu isn't interested in being some experimental subject, especially since he's rich now, but she insists this building can't be bought with money. She demands an immediate answer from him, given that both of their sides have packed schedules. Hunmu says money doesn't matter, but sets two conditions. She cannot object if he joins another clan, and his results must remain confidential within the institute. Du Wongyong agrees without hesitation, making Hunmu suspicious. Her very swift acceptance hints she knows of his abilities, and suggests for what the lab is planning, his involvement is the key to its success. On a dark and rainy night, outside the Jolu dungeon, a man drags a suitcase to the entrance. He's stopped by armed forces demanding to know his identity. The man quickly explains that he's a hunter from Sunjin's team, which entered the dungeon 7 days ago. They were to get more supplies after 6 days, but only if they signaled, had yet to emerge. He presents his license and a return scroll, explaining he'll drop the supplies and then depart. The agents check his documents and debate checking his bag, but ultimately let him pass. Time is critical, and the team inside must be low on supplies. They do warn him of the increased fluctuations in the area, advising caution. The hunter steps through the barrier into the dungeon, opening the large suitcase. Kursanen emerges, and the hired man asks if his job is done. Kursanen gestures for him to get lost. The hunter wonders why Parkiso deals with a talking monster, but lets it go. Clearing his debt matters more, so he tears the return scroll. Kursanen laughs at the hunter's fear, mocking the idea that it takes an entire week for hunters to clear a dungeon he could conquer in 3 days. Meanwhile, back home, Hunmu returns to find Yuman trying to torch the house in her attempt to kill one unusually resilient mosquito. Hunmu asked her to research if he can control his kin while unconscious, but she now seems increasingly paranoid, convinced the previous owner's grandson was killed by mosquitoes. Later, Hunmu shows her the stocks he has been investing in. Upon seeing only blue-chip stocks, she jokingly asks if Seoul is about to be bombed. He replies that if he knew that, he'd have already fled the country. Even though she thinks he's an idiot, she still supports him. Hunmu, considering revealing more, decides to share the truth about the future. He then shows her the Doomsday Diary, a written record of humanity's total downfall. She worries he has 8th grade syndrome, naming skills and acting cool, just like newly awakened ability users often do. He insists the Doomsday Diary is real, but she just laughs it off. His phone chimes, confirming a delivery. She asks if it's from the lab. He calls it the cornerstone of his grand debut. She teases, asking if that line is from the diary too. The scene shifts to Hunmu standing before the beautiful Jelu Mountain, reflecting on how this serene place is about to become ground zero for humanity's downfall. The dungeon break occurring here will ignite humanity's extinction, and Hunmu, once living on scraps, will rise as their savior. Hunmu scans the hilltop, trying to find the civil servant who, the journal says, will be the first to notice the dungeon flooding. Spotting him, he greets the man, introducing himself as a hunter. The man is suspicious, realizing Hunmu isn't a local, and questions his motives. Playing it cool, Hunmu claims he's just a curious newbie and asks what the man is photographing. The man explains he's studying the flowtype dungeon's entrance to predict when monsters might appear. He records the dungeon's state daily, explaining that flowtype dungeons shift their structure and shape with each exploration, which makes every entry feel like a completely new dungeon, making it more prone to monster escapes. The man says it's doubtful that this specific dungeon will breach like Baekdu Dungeon did in North Korea 8 years ago, when a sudden monster surge made containment impossible. Back then, rumors circulated about a massive, mushroom-shaped cloud appearing over the dungeon area. Since the country is a closed-off nation, the front line remained unaware, fighting non-stop to contain the monsters. The man apologizes for his paranoia, adding that no one seems interested in his work. Hunmu quietly admires him, knowing his research will be vital for humankind, and asks if there have been any changes today. The man confirms something seems off, so our guy asks to look at the pictures. The man hands Hunmu his camera, apologizing for their rushed quality. After inspecting them, Hunmu returns the camera, addressing him as Kang HLC, praising his research and saying it will be crucial in the future. As Hunmu leaves, the man thinks it's the first time his research wasn't mocked, and wonders how Hunmu knew his name, as he never introduced himself. Returning to the ground, he realizes the photograph he saw matched one from his journal. He scans the area. The patrol team is ready, but according to his records, the dungeon walls will collapse within 10 minutes, plunging Hapjeong into chaos. Hunmu accelerated the event, which was meant to happen in 2 months, by releasing Kersonen in the dungeon, forcing the disaster ahead of schedule. He did this to take control of the event. Everything so far has been a tutorial. This epic manhwa level up begins now. The real game begins. Being a hunter won't be enough, not even a clan leader. He must rise higher, reaching for godhood. For a fleeting moment, everything feels deceptively calm. Then the ground suddenly shakes violently as the flood is unleashed. Kersonen has played his part. The chaos now unfolds. Inside the dungeon, a journalist reports the escape of monsters, as gunshots echo off the walls. Despite a successful defense so far, concerns about declaring a flood crisis are mounting as the monsters keep pouring out. The government and clans trade blame for the mismanagement. The branch leader demands to know the status, and his soldier explains the first line of defense has already collapsed, leaving the second line vulnerable to the rapidly increasing monster numbers. The soldier urges his leader to declare the flood crisis, but the leader stalls, fearing mass panic among Hapjeongdong's 200,000 residents. He also dreads the immense burden such a declaration would place upon his shoulders. The man reports they can't reach Captain Dong, who's still in the Jerry Mountain dungeon, and the Gangnam branch is unreachable, as CEO Lee is in Switzerland, and Commander Park Dory-young is unable to be contacted, as usual. Though support from Nahal and other clans is on its way, the leader knows that even if they block the flood with available hunters, the commander's absence will cost them dearly. The higher-ups will make him the scapegoat, cutting him off. As monsters approach the second line, the leader orders hunters to prepare for the ratmen, known for being as ferocious as felines. He uses his skills to hold them off with a roar, buying them some time, but it's clear they cannot stop the flood. The wall starts to shatter as pressure from the ratmen grows, and a large piece crashes into the leader, knocking him to the ground. A level 28 werewolf boss monster appears, howling thunderously. Just as the leader is about to give up, a hand grips his shoulder. He thinks it is Commander Oh Dae-song, but he is wrong. It's Hunmu, who has arrived to intervene. The journalist reports the breach of the wall and the surge of ratmen. Among them, a man in non-hunter attire charges headfirst into the herd. Hunmu, seeing the rats lack a title and are at level 17, thinks even those surviving on Hell's trash can reach level 15. He stretches, then launches a flurry of kicks and punches, hearing their bones crack, which confuses him as they all die with a single blow, and he realizes it's easier to kill these compared to the ones in Hell. So, he is left wondering how much easier it would be to defeat the titled monsters. Bringing his focus back to his plan, he activates his domination skill. The ratmen instantly collapse, coughing up blood and dying. Hunmu himself and the men around him are stunned by how quickly they all fall. As the boss monster approaches, the branch leader orders his men to assemble, but Hunmu is too excited to test his skills on the boss. The leader warns him to be careful, but our guy holds his ground, eager to know how much his training in Hell has paid off. The beast lunges, claws ready, but the champ dodges and lands a kick to its gut, causing it to stagger. Another kick follows, and the beast collapses on the ground, terrified, its tail tucked between its legs. Hunmu rests his foot on its chest while both the reporter and soldiers watch in absolute astonishment. The soldiers speculate if the beast's fear is due to a skill, but they find it strange. Even weaker monsters are hostile toward humans. Yet, this creature fears the unknown man, as if he's the real monster. The beast bolts toward the wall, trying to escape, which disappoints our guy, who was looking for a tougher fight. So, he hurls a hell dart soaked in the blood of the hungry. It strikes midair, sending the beast crashing to the ground, only for it to transform, growing even stronger. The army of hunters witnesses the beast's transformation and grows horrified, thinking they are doomed. The beast howls, pushing the men back with its sheer force, making them realize they need at least a vice-captain level hunter to stand a chance against it. Smaller werewolves appear behind the boss, and the branch leader considered declaring a flood, realizing this situation is far beyond their ability to handle. The beast's level increases by 10 and is now titled the Lunacy-Driven Werewolf at level 38. Hunmu recalls that in Hell, He would have fled upon seeing this, but the difficulty here is much lower compared to hell. He activates the blood of the hungry through kin absorption, specialization, granting him the lingering curse of thirst. With it, he temporarily gains a blood-siphoning skill, slightly augmenting his power. As the beast lunges, soldiers tense, but a crash echoes. Hunmu parries its claw, taunting it for its false bravado after transforming, commenting, "It must have forgotten its last beating." He readies a punch, but a lesser werewolf lunges at him. He evades swiftly, sidestepping the attack. Hunmu notes their teamwork, a step up from the ratman he faced. As soldiers see him surrounded, fear grips them. They falter, considering retreat. Shame seizes their leader for inaction, while Hunmu risks all, doing their job. Hunmu dodges, disappointed by the lack of challenge, urging them to offer a real fight for his debut. Suddenly, a frenzied wolf takes a brutal kick, crashing down as the branch leader intervenes to aid Hunmu. Furious at the interference, he scolds the man, only to throw a punch defending him from a wolf from behind. Using the leader's shoulder as a launchpad, he leaps, seizing the beast by its tongue, delivering a shattering kick that leaves its head dangling in his grasp. Another werewolf charges, but suddenly collapses, weapons buried in its back. Hunters rush to retrieve their gear from the corpse. They stare, shocked at the boss monster's severed head. Hunmu orders them to focus on the front line as ratmen continue to swarm. The branch leader orders the ratmen eliminated and the front line reformed. Gazing skyward, Hunmu feels his impact was minimal during his debut of 1.5 hours. The branch leader, Taikyouong, introduces himself as leader of the almighty Lotus Group and Gangbuk, offering a handshake. Hunmu recalls the guild's low average level, meaning Taikyouong is in the nation's top 10%. Hunmu shakes his hand, thanking him for the assistance. Reporters capture the moment, declaring the situation resolved while highlighting the branch leader's handshake with the man who did the real work. Reporters swarm him, barraging him with questions about his guild and the transformation. Hunmu introduces himself as a new hunter, devoted to serving the people. Memories surface of his past abandoned, surviving on scraps of crystal moss, reminding him his redemption has just begun. On the news, chief researcher Kim Yongo discusses how high-ranked skills like Howl only affect feline-type monsters. Another expert suggests the ratman collapsed from a new type of mental skill. Professor Hans Sunungo of Hunter Studies posits Hunmu used at least 3 skills: body strengthening, increased speed, and coercion, reminding everyone there is a reason terms like double-caster or multicaster exist. The debate rages, some speculating he earned his skills through rare dungeon rewards, or, as rumored, that specializations are gained in life or death extremes. Others suggest he might possess the ultimate skill, a rare power for hunters at level 50. Currently, only OJ and Odsung are known to possess it nationwide. Behind the scenes, Chief Duong Yong of Seojong Laboratory scoffs at the experts. She knows the ratmen were broken by his presence alone, a power she's seen only monsters wield in dungeons. Seeing the likeness between his blood crystals and monster cores, she feels foolish to think of him as a monster. Yet, the ratmen's terror and their sudden deaths raise questions. Even with an ultimate, there's no clear proof. Her staff member, Lee Si-wan, interrupts her, informing her of a call from the Blue House. Annoyed, she berates him, but takes the phone thinking the call could be from the president himself. Speaking curtly, she states she's busy. The voice on the other end introduces himself as Park Kyu, chief secretary to the president. She realizes things are escalating faster than expected. She asks if the president is interested in the ability department. Then, Park Kyu reveals the call is about the new rookie, Hunmu. Amused by their sudden interest, she asks if they wish to photograph the brave hunter who stopped the flood and reward him. The secretary clarifies he is speaking for the Tong clan, crushing her hopes that the president was interested in her department. She claims the rank assessor is malfunctioning, making it impossible to gather details on Hunmu. The man, unconvinced, accuses her of intentionally delaying the rank announcement, questioning if the department is attempting to secure Hunmu for their major project. Believing he already knows, she concedes the project is confidential and refuses to disclose details. The secretary presses for early information, assuming she is facing criticism for the delay. Wang Yong remains hesitant, but the secretary offers a new deal. The Taong clan will donate 10 billion to the Hunter Retirement Fund, doubling the original amount offered. She recalls that the Great Unknown clan had offered only 100 million before Tong's involvement. Now the sum has increased tenfold. Fearful of losing Hunmu to the government or Tong, she reluctantly agrees to send the file. The secretary, unfazed, states he has already seen the dungeon recording and is only concerned with stopping the approaching monsters. Wang Yong realizes their true intent is to merely use his talent, and she ends the call. As Park Kyu considers sending it to Tong, thinking of the money they would offer, Wang Yong's message arrives, voiding the deal. Frustrated, Park Kyu scrambles to turn on the TV. A news channel is announcing the rank assessment results, revealing Hunmu's score, 5 stars. This enrages him, as such an announcement was completely unexpected. Meanwhile, Hunmu relaxes after a shower as Yuman informs him his rank was announced. The news discusses the credibility of the assessment, While ranks can increase, no one has ever surpassed 3 stars. A true manhwa level up. Since the cap for a 5-star rank is level 60, Hunmu is now considered stronger than top hunters like Liit and Park Dory-young. The news speculates a level 60 rank could grant even rarer, more powerful skills, potentially including ultimate skills. Yoan informs Hunmu that media and hunters are constantly trying to contact him. Hunmu's plan is working. Get famous so he gets paid even when he's useless. He asks about the state of their stocks after the flood. She reports that while stocks dropped, their put options gained 30% as the market recovered. He then instructs her to buy all available Taikyouong stocks with their earnings. Yoan, taken aback, explains that since the clan is on the northern expedition, they will likely avoid any losses. Hunmu, however, knows this will prompt Lee Jae to make a move. Parkiso's car stops before Hunmu's new house. Hunmu invites him inside, but the old man requests a walk instead. They head toward the nearby forest where the man reveals Hunmu's new cover identity as a businessman who, after gaining experience abroad, created hunter welfare programs using his own resources. However, he started from the bottom in Korea. Seeing the harsh reality of the dungeon industry, Hunmu is satisfied with the identity, and Hiso feels relieved. Suddenly, Parkiso's cane strikes Hunmu, who blocks it. His stats are boosted by Hell's strongest title against a level 40 human. The man, furious, demands to know if Hunmu caused the flood. He assures the old man he never starts what he can't control. Equipping his legendary glove, he notes that there were no casualties, despite him holding back his power. Yet, Hiso remains furious, suspecting his motives, fame or increasing his value. Hunmu shatters the cane's sheath, revealing a blade, and draws his own blood-flowing sword. The man dodges and strikes again, but Hunmu blocks with a sword that catches Wiso's attention. It is new. Hunmu recalls that his own swords usually break, but since Wiso's blade isn't budging, it must be valuable. They engage in a duel, with Hunmu evading the old man's attacks effortlessly. His opponent is surprised by his improvement, and feels the need to subdue him now more than ever. Hunmu explains the flood was inevitable, so he timed it to exploit the situation, rather than let it happen uncontrollably. Wiso doubts his intentions, thinking he didn't care about the people, but Hunmu tries to assure him. The old man questions if Hunmu would have stopped the flood if there was nothing to gain. Hunmu's silence is a chilling answer. He then asks if the old man truly believes in the good of humanity. Flood, had he not intervened. Seeing the old man's stubborn principles, he knows words are useless, daring him to resist as he leaps into another assault. Wiso, cornered, apologizes for turning Hunmu's own gift against him, then reveals the legendary ring, the trust of Urhost, which temporarily doubles his stats. He evades with his sword, catching Hunmu off guard and slamming him to the ground. Without hesitation, Wiso lunges from behind, launching another strike. As Hunmu stands, Wiso is already before him, his newfound speed a complete shock. Hunmu swings his blade, but Wiso swiftly dodges behind him. Wiso warns it won't be easy to take his back, but his neck suddenly swells. Attacked by the kin mosquitoes Hunmu just resurrected, he remarks that the old man should have expected this, having seen his improvements. Wiso never anticipated the deadly poison now coursing through him. Seeing this, the bodyguards rush forward. Hunmu summons Kirsanen, who arrives with his own forces. As the two sides clash, Hunmu expresses disappointment in their broken trust, stripping off his glove to reveal the other ring. The obedience of Ukelheart, which cripples the abilities of anyone holding its twin. Wiso had fatally miscalculated. With a quiet apology, Hunmu drives his sword into his back, and the blood begins to flow. The old man's trembling hands finally go still. Kirsanen asks what to do with the men, and is ordered to retreat. Once alone, Hunmu tells the man to get up, revealing the poison is special, healing allies, but harming enemies based on Hunmu's will. He asks why our hero spared his life, and he replies that if the old man truly meant to kill him, he would not have approached him so directly. Wiso comments that Hunmu seems like a veteran, and Hunmu thinks to himself that in some places, he is. Wiso believes that though our guy has a good nature, his concern is Hunmu's flawed judgment. He fears he might make reckless decisions. Partially agreeing, Hunmu assures him that he is neither a monster nor trying to become one. He clarifies that even without personal gain, he would have stopped the flood if he had seen the signs, because he is not a monster. He commends Wiso for his righteousness, admitting he once saw the old man as a heartless beast. Wiso agrees, but explains he follows strict rules and deeply values humanity. If the world were collapsing, he would protect it. That is why Hunmu causing the flood unsettled him. Hunmu adds there are two types of people he likes: useful allies and stupid enemies, as smart foes are a bother and useless people are mundane, which applies to the vast majority. Wiso asks Hunmu to realize his duty to the common people as a person with power, to which he reflects that when he was part of the majority, the powerful never cared for them. He says he feels differently now. He wants to experience life's luxuries, but is unsure if being a famous person with power will be enough. His goal is not just to reach the stars but to become one himself. Wiso wonders just how far Hunmu's ambitions stretch. Knowing the old man could never have killed him, Hunmu chooses generosity. He reminds him that before, words alone secured his allegiance, but next time he will have to bow. Meanwhile, the Red Butterfly and her group have been battling goblins in the dungeon. Red Butterfly barely escapes an attack from the orc chieftain. The team is ordered to fall back and regroup to fight the boss, but Red Butterfly decides to charge ahead alone, her group moving quickly to support her. The orc swings its weapon, but Red Butterfly backflips into the air, landing behind it. Hungrian uses a chain to disarm the orc, and Red Snake uses his skill to freeze the beast, giving her an opening to slice it to pieces. The commander scolds the red-haired woman for ignoring orders, threatening disciplinary action. Her teammates step in to defend her, but she apologizes for endangering them. She accepts any punishment, but the commander dismisses her apology, letting her teammates off the hook as well, acknowledging their actions were to protect her. He apologizes for his harshness, admitting he was taken aback by her change from her usual calm demeanor. He thanks her for preventing casualties, honored to witness her defeat the orc in a single strike. Red Butterfly feels racked with anxiety. She fears her defiance has endangered her team. The commander offers a hand, but she refuses to take it. Humiliated, he barks orders to pack up and get out. Beyond the dungeon's maw, Lee congratulates Red Butterfly on hitting level 21. She credits her team's support for the victory. He voices his pride, then asks for a private word. Inside the car, he probes the source of her stress, and she admits to her grave mistake of defying the commander's orders. Lee reassures her, no casualties means no foul. Still, he wonders if her anxiety is truly about Kang Hunmu, a test to break from her own stagnation. He plays the flood footage, explaining they have been digging for intel on the man, but have found absolutely nothing. He presses for insight, asking what she learned fighting him for over 30 grueling minutes. Lee asks if Hunmu held back. She confirms it. He was hiding his true power, not fighting with everything he had, she recalls their battle, and tears well in her eyes. She bested him in skill and ability, but his hallucinations left her utterly paralyzed. This revelation leads Lee to suspect Hunmu wields illusionary skills, either hidden or bound by unknown limitations. The dungeon footage then reveals Hunmu's terrifying power, felling the alpha werewolf in one clean strike, and managing multiple wolves simultaneously. They exchange a look, acknowledging the sheer abnormality of his power. It's an unnatural manhwa level up, Lee muses, wondering how Hunmu ascends while he remains stagnant. He notes her own progress, surpassing his own early days. Desperate for insight, he asks for her advice, thinking she knows the man best, but she apologizes. She knows almost nothing about him either. Since Red Butterfly's next target was Jolu Dungeon, he informs her the Taikyouong clan is forming an expedition to suppress the flood, and to refine their skills and stabilize fixed-type dungeons. He's gathering intel on the flood's origin dungeon to ensure the Bakdu dungeon expedition succeeds next year. Red Butterfly just broke level 20 and has vast experience in variable and high-rank dungeons. Though Jolu Dungeon is a challenge, given her remarkable progress, Lee invites her to join the Jolu Dungeon expedition. As she exits the car, her team waits. Red Lotus asks if she heard about the flood, but Red Snake asks about her talk with Lee. She relays everything to them. Haru asks if the flood was stopped, and Hongrayan asks if it was the same person. Red Butterfly confirms their suspicions. It was indeed Kang Hunmu. They ask if she was offered a spot on the expedition. After a heavy pause, she admits she accepted the offer, leaving her entire team speechless. They hesitantly offer their encouragement, and she thanks them. Her thoughts drift back to Hunmu, her resolve hardening to surpass him no matter how high he climbs. In his car, Lee turns over a piece of crystal moss, wondering how Hunmu acquired one of such high purity, as if from a giant, unknown beast. A call comes in about the next expedition's prep, and his desire for that same crystal intensifies. Lee then holds a press conference at the clan headquarters, discussing the flood and his duty as a hunter to shield the public from these monsters. He praises Kang Hunmu's efforts in preventing countless sacrifices, calling him a gift from fate. Since so little is known about dungeons and 5-star rankers, Lee emphasizes the need for collaboration over individual conflict. He announces the successful subjugation of the Jolu dungeon flood, with the Taikyouong clan taking full responsibility for public safety and sponsoring the expedition. Listening to the conference, Park realizes that the blame initially fell on Almighty Lotus, but with them exonerated, if Taikyouong seizes control, they will command the expedition, monopolizing both the monsters and the priceless artifacts within, effectively claiming it all. His announcement, inviting Kang Hunmu to the expedition, stuns everyone. Hearing this, our protagonist suspects it's because Lee failed to uncover his secrets, leaving him no choice but to rely on the crystal he provided to ascend the ranks. Though Lee feels uneasy, he must cast aside his pride and covet Hunmu even more in this hell. Inside the banquet hall, at the clan's headquarters, Nahul stood alone, observing the crowd while her eyes flicked to a game, annoyed by her losing team. Just then, Hunmu approached. She noted his different appearance, and he explained his girlfriend had picked his clothes, her taste being far better. Though Hunmu could have arrived in rags and still been respected, he had used a battle helper to master the etiquette his position demanded. They were both awaiting Liet, who was nowhere in sight. Nahul informed Hunmu that Jai was meeting with the foreign hunter organization, Chrome, which would be dispatching veteran hunters for the flood. After that, Jai's meeting with them would start. Hunmu assumed her presence meant the Great Unknown clan was joining, but she clarified their refusal to partake in any expedition led by Taikyouong. She took a sip, grimacing at the taste, and remarked that Hunmu must know of the strained relations between the clans. Before their split, they were unified as the Lunatic Tigers, a name taken from the bar where they frequently gathered. The Great Unknown had opted out to manage external matters, and Nahul was here because their captain, Park Dory-young, refused to even see Liet. Hunmu mused that if the Lunatic Tigers were revived, they would be the strongest clan, but he wondered if he could achieve his own manhwa level up by consuming them both. The meeting finally concluded, and Liet emerged, accompanied by a priest. Hunmu wondered if this priest was the same one who had survived the flood. On stage, Liet introduced the key figures for the Jolu expedition. First, So Taikyouong, leader of Almighty Lotus's Gangbook branch, who would oversee his clan. Then, Kang Hunmu, leader of the Obsidian team, who would command the forces. Embarrassingly, Liet then admitted that he himself would be taking general command. Nahul ground her teeth in fury. Not only had their clan been excluded without a chance to state their case, but Liet had seized control of the entire expedition. Angrily, she slammed another drink, burped loudly, and announced the Great Unknown would not be participating. With that, she stormed away. Liet continued, introducing Father Jan Hessner from Germany, a priest who had risked his life in a Syrian flood to stabilize the dungeon. Father Hessner was invited as an expedition advisor. Hunmu recalled Kawaro, mentioning that name in hell, along with Maria Keller, and seeing it in the skeleton's letter. He realized this was the same John who secured humanity's survival, only to take his own life, leaving his successors with a time-limited existence. Suddenly recalling it was a cleric, not a priest, who died, he decided to confirm his doubts with the Admiral lens. But Liet's gaze remained fixed on Hunmu. He then announced Priest Yoan as the expedition's core, a level 50 healer with 3 abilities, healing, blessing, and the ultimate veil of charity, making him a triple caster. A man then addressed Hunmu as whispers spread, acknowledging his presence. He asked Hunmu to come with him, as someone wished to meet him. Having waited to meet Liet, Hunmu eagerly agreed. The man led Hunmu to the elevator, taking him to the penthouse of the clan headquarters. Inside, Liet stood upstairs, motioning for him to come up. Over a meal, Liet asked about his affiliation and training. When Hunmu said he trained alone, Liet warned that once the nation investigated, he would need a better cover story. Hunmu joked about the situation, but the clan leader was focused, asking directly about the stars his name was linked to, and his current rank. Hunmu decided to gather more intel on Liet before revealing anything about himself. The system notification revealed Liet's level, 57, with 4 stars, triggering his hell's strongest title in frustration. Liet placed a hand on his shoulder, assuring him there was no need to be nervous. Hunmu was stunned. He never even sensed Liet move. Retrieving his hand, Liet wondered if he had overestimated Hunmu, given his slow reaction. Liet was surprised by Hunmu's sudden stillness, but thought if he were truly as strong as rumored, he shouldn't be careless. Hunmu asked how old he looked, and Liet correctly guessed early to mid-30s, which unsettled Hunmu. When Liet questioned whether Hunmu was really a 5-star, he took offense, turning the question back on him. The man clarifies he wasn't doubting him, just considering our hero might be a rank higher, as he seems different from other 5-star users. This confirms his suspicion that higher ranks exist. Whether 6 or 7 stars, Hunmu's manhwa level up has surpassed humanity's current limits. Yet, he insists he's not that strong, wary of Jitae's easy praise. Abruptly, Jitae asks if he's read Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. He describes the Overlords, an advanced species in the novel, feared as demons by humanity. In the end, humanity sought their help and transcended to a higher level. Jite parallels their situation with the Overlord's role, suggesting that leaders and the awakened guide others, but they themselves cannot transcend. Leaning close, Jitae says he smells the scent of one who can predict the future, something he also senses in himself. Hunmu realizes Jitae means they share similar qualities, an ability to foresee what is to come. Jitae mentions the flood in Jolu Dungeon is just the beginning. Scholars predict dungeons will become harder, but soon an unpredictable change will occur. He asks for Hunmu's cooperation, believing that despite the darkness behind his facade, they could work together for a greater good. As Jit places a hand on Hunmu's shoulder, Hunmu asks if he still shouts out spell or skill names when using them. Jita replies he stopped doing that at the age of 20. Understanding the hint that our guy is uninterested, Jit stands to leave, stating he has something important to do, and bidding Hunmu farewell. As Hunmu enters the elevator, he reflects on their talk. A brief vision of hell's destruction flashes before him, making him reconsider Jit's offer. His jaw tightens, but the image vanishes as he blinks. Jitae's determination to win only fuels Hunmu's desire to surpass him, so he resolves to catch him quickly, if Jit is indeed one of the most talented. Back in hell, Hunmu faces a grotesque giant spore rat at level 21. As it charges toward him, he swings his sword, slicing it in two. The spores on its back burst open, and Hunmu quickly shields his face. Inhaling them means parasitization, dooming him to wander the sewers for life. His sword transforms into another legendary weapon, the Black Handle Dagger. While it has low to medium stats, its special ability is perfect concealment, enhancing the user's speed. Hunmu is relieved he didn't greedily absorb his previous weapon, as this dagger proves more useful here. It has a dark history, used by blind assassins of the Black Cult, religious fanatics who perished at the hands of those who opposed them. Though intended for diversion, it was never meant to slay great individuals. Meanwhile, Kursonen and his goblin team are preparing potions from crystal moss. Hunmu arrives, placing the objects he gathered before them, urging them to hurry. The goblins look tired, but he stresses they must finish by tomorrow. The goblins rush to gather the items, but Hunmu, slightly concerned, asks Kursonen if they might spit in the potion. Kursonen reassures him, explaining the goblins are thankful and will follow his orders. He then shows Kursonen a mushroom, making him panic. Hunmu laughs, revealing he finally captured the spore rat. He asks if consuming it would cause parasitization and if this ability can be added to the poison blood. Kursonen hesitates, reminding Hunmu they've already added the blood of the hungry ability, but Hunmu insists on trying it. Kursonen, visibly worried, tells Hunmu not to push himself so hard, noting he's becoming more reckless, as if actively seeking death. He urges Hunmu to value his life, as dismissing his own would lead him to view the lives of others identically. As Hunmu roams hell, pondering Kursonen's words, he spots a pack of ratmen. He leaps onto a wall, performing a few wall jumps before unleashing a hell dart at them. The dart turns them rabid, causing them to attack and consume their own. Hunmu snaps his fingers and they spew corrupted blood, dying instantly, which proves his newly added trait is working. Looking skyward, he sees the timer ticking, 87 hours left until the next quest, which is in 3 days. If he fails to clear Jolu dungeon within a day, he will be dragged back to hell mid-raid. Realizing he cannot stop it, he starts brainstorming an excuse for leaving amidst it all. Journalists report that Jolu dungeon remains eerily calm with no signs of monsters despite Korea's first flood experience. Taikyouong and Almighty Lotus clans have formed an alliance, creating an expedition stronger than any other, with an average level of 30. The report highlights powerful ability users, including the renowned hero Kang Hunmu and Father Yoan, an international figure. Though Lee has already conquered 5-star dungeons and doesn't need this, the experience from the flood will be valuable for next year's northern expedition. Despite fewer members with Leite, Kang Hunmu, and Father Yoan Hessner, who seems to be a 4-star, this team is undeniably all-star. Leite leads the charge, commanding the team to enter. Just then, a man rushes up to inform him of a flood in the Genwando Chunin area. Hunmu is puzzled, as that flood was expected next year, but after a moment, he recalls it was scheduled to occur 10 days after the Jolu dungeon flood. He wonders if the events are connected or if he might have triggered the flood himself. GT is advised to postpone the expedition to handle the current flood, but some argue Chunshin is only a 2-star dungeon, while Jolu's situation could worsen if they delay. Multiple dungeons are showing danger signals, and reinforcements are needed everywhere. Though Han dungeon poses little threat, evacuations are already underway. This is Jai's chance to prove the country can prevent such calamities. Captain Odaong remains on Jeju Island to maintain order, while Hungarian confirms they are handling Chunin dungeon. With this assurance, the team proceeds with the Jolu dungeon expedition. Lee, however, decides to divert to Chunin himself, as the situation there remains uncertain, especially with so many recent unforeseen events. He leaves the Obsidians behind and appoints Taikyouong Su, the experienced branch manager, to oversee the team. He also advises Taikyouong to consult Priest Jai, who has experience with floods, should they face difficulties. Jai assures Hunmu that the Jolu dungeon will be in his capable hands. Hunmu, worried things might go wrong and jeopardize his reputation, promises Jai he'll do his best to prevent casualties. Before leaving, he sends Yum a message to stay safe. Taeyong lights a torch, revealing ratmen charging in. He commands the team to assemble, and they swiftly cut them down. Hunmu, observing from behind, admires Almighty Lotus, whom he initially doubted, and sees Red Butterfly holding her own alongside Priest Yoan. With their combined strength, handling 50 of these creatures seems effortless. A soldier remarks that Hunmu looks too relaxed. He casually excuses himself, claiming he is just observing their abilities out of curiosity. The man then asks to see Hunmu's skills firsthand, since they have only seen him in action on TV. Hunmu picks up a whistle and tells the man that ratmen have a leader and use the whistle to call for help when in danger. The man, having never seen such a thing, doesn't realize this will soon be common as monsters evolve. He blows the whistle, and the sound of more ratmen approaching shocks everyone. Taikyouong orders the team to brace for engagement. Hunmu, however, tells them to rest and witness a true manhwa level up. He disappears into the shadows, and the sound of bones cracking echoes, prompting the men to follow despite their fear. As they proceed, their torches reveal the bodies of dead ratmen. Tiun calls out to Hunmu, but hears nothing. He urges the team to stay alert. A black liquid splashes in front of them, and a severed werewolf head appears. Half of Hunmu's body glows eerily as he asks if he still seems relaxed. The man who had doubted him earlier apologizes, and Hunmu smiles, guiding them forward. Hunmu sees Jai's absence as an opportunity to establish both respect and fear among the team. Finding a quiet spot, Taikyouong calls for a rest. The manager notes Hunmu's foresight, a true manhwa level up, as he anticipated the monster's arrival, and asks him to share any future premonitions. Hunmu warns of a werewolf and a pack of ratmen 150 meters ahead, with another 60 closing in from behind. Since neither threat seems imminent, Taikyouong deems it an acceptable risk. Hunmu then asks Taikyouong if the team can navigate this path, to which the leader, he explains, the dungeon's structure has warped beyond all known patterns. This place is critically unstable, he warns. That flow-type dungeons are known for these chaotic transformations. Tapping the crumbling obsidian, he urges them to trace the roots, as Taikyouong listens for vibrations. An ambush? He asks. Hunmu denies it. The dungeon itself is convulsing. He quickly gathers everyone, a grim excitement building as he sees the ratmen swarm forward like a tidal wave. Taikyouong orders the team to find a secure retreat path, but their attempt reveals no escape, only a gaping, dark abyss. Several men plummet into the void as they scramble back. Drenched in cold sweat as the ratmen close in, Priest Yoan commands the team to form a defensive line. He casts a spell, bathing the vanguard in a silvery light. The air fills with the shriek of metal on flesh as ratmen claws tear at soldiers even through their shields. Yoan unleashes his healing arts upon the wounded, while Hunmu warns that their defense cannot hold for long. Taikyouong urges everyone to hold their ground until the dungeon shifts again, screaming for aid to protect Father Yoan. The Obsidian team unleashes a volley of arrows, impressing even Hunmu. Red Butterfly leads a charge to thin the horde, sustained only by Yoan's relentless stream of healing magic. Taikyouong wonders if they can possibly survive until the next change. A werewolf shatters a shield with its claws, sending hunters into the abyss as it tramples over their formation. A werewolf lunges for Taikyouong, but Red Butterfly intercepts it just in time. Though wounded at its waist, the beast is too powerful for Red Butterfly to face one-on-one. She leaps, striking from above to gouge its eyes. The creature shrieks, seizing Priest Yoan and dragging him into the abyss. Hunmu dives in after them, his legendary grip gloves severing the werewolf's hand to free the priest. He retracts the glove's webbing to pull Yoan up, where Red Butterfly catches the priest, shoving him back to safety. They stare into the abyss, but Hunmu has vanished. A chilling fear spreads. Many have died during the second assault. The branch leader gathers the survivors, regretfully proposing a retreat. Red Butterfly disagrees, convinced that many hunters are still alive within the dungeon. She believes finding Hunmu is their only hope to clear the dungeon and stop the overflow. Afraid of the consequences with Li Tai absent and Hunmu missing, Taikyouong concedes that Red Butterfly has a point. He declares they will abandon no one, especially not Hunmu, and orders the team to search the entire dungeon. Red Butterfly, lost in thought, reflects on how Hunmu resembles someone from her past. Suddenly, Hunmu too falls into the abyss, and as his quest timer hits 0, he is violently transported to hell. He looks around, bewildered, wondering why the real trial has yet to begin.